So much to talk about in the MMA community. It's been a while since I've been live, but here I am back with another live stream. And today's live, I just want to cover a bunch of topics regarding Alex Pereira uh, and him being an underdog against Magomed Ankalaev, and he's even a massive underdog against John Jones, which makes sense, and a massive underdog against Tom Aspinall too, which I mean, as he should be, really. I mean, I don't mean that with Ankalaev, but I mean John Jones and Tom Aspinall, I believe, are locks to beat Poatan. But Ank is not. Um, and I just also want to talk about the return of Julianna Pena too. Like, can she regain the title? Um, how is her comeback gonna go? And then, oh yeah, and then Michael Chandler is claiming some nonsense that he was offered a title shot. If they can't reschedule the Conor McGregor fight soon enough, which I don't know about that. Brother, it seems like you haven't been live in a year. I know. I don't even know when the last time I went live was. Probably like April. I think the last stream I did was me watching UFC 200 in preparation for UFC 300. But yeah, I figured I might as well go live again. And also I'll talk about other things too beyond what's in this title, like maybe Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez, that being a headliner. Um, but Alex Pereira against Magomed Ankalaev, he's a plus 210 underdog, and Magomed's a minus 250 uh, favorite, which, to a lot of fans, they think that's crazy that he shouldn't be an underdog at all or even that big of an underdog. Um, in my opinion, I mean, at this point, I would have Alex as a favorite over Magomed Ankalaev, but you know what? I said the same thing about Charles Oliveira when he was the champion and he looked unstoppable, and when he defended the belt twice by finishing Poirier and Gaethje. And yes, I count that Gaethje fight as a title defense. Never should have lost the belt to the scales. That was rigged in the weigh-ins. I was saying that, oh, I think Charles is going to beat Islam, and I think Charles shouldn't be the underdog. And then we saw what happened in that fight, and that was the last time we saw a Brazilian up against a Dagestani in a title fight. So we could be looking at a similar situation, although it's a little tough to say. I think like this is different. I don't think this is going to be like the situation with Makachev and Oliveira, although it very well could be. Let me read what Colstrom says. I know you're a Pena fan, but I think she needs a tune up fight. Why does she get a title shot off the 2-year layoff? Yeah, I mean, I don't think she deserves it either. Um, but yeah, like I said, I don't see Magomed Pereira. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who wins that fight, actually. I keep flip-flopping on that one, but I don't know if this is going to be the same situation as the Oliveira Makachev one, where we saw Charles Oliveira get dominated and folded inside 2 rounds. I think this matchup on paper is way more competitive, and I think Alex Pereira is a more dangerous fight for Magomed Ankalaev than Islam was for Charles Oliveira, because Alex Pereira, as one of the best strikers in MMA, with the power that he has, is now growing into himself as an MMA fighter. We're seeing his takedown defense, his ground game is getting way better. And Magomed isn't like Islam as far as his wrestling dominance. Like, he's not going out there and khabibing guys. He's primarily a striker who has the wrestling in his back pocket, but rarely uses it. I mean, the most I've seen him wrestle was against Jan, which he should have wrestled more in that fight, not just the late rounds. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's got that Khabib level of, or the Islam level of chain wrestling. Um, and it's possible that Alex might be able to defend takedowns or get back to his feet. Um, I mean, I do think Magomed, he's going to have a game plan of, even if the takedowns aren't easy, he has to keep persisting, and he's got to make Pereira work. He's got to wear the big man out so that he can dominate him in the late rounds. That's what he's got to do. But if he goes out there thinking that he can just strike with him, I mean, I know he's talking about wanting to be the one to knock him out after Israel Adesanya, saying he doesn't need his wrestling. Jan said the same thing. That was a bluff. I can only hope Magomed is bluffing, because if he's really serious, he's getting slept. I mean, Jan was tearing his legs apart, almost TKO'd him with leg kicks in the second round. And Magomed's striking is, it's good, but it's not near the level of Alex, and he can be very sloppy on the feet. He can be sharp, yet so sloppy and very open for that left hook. And I mean, Santos dropped him with a left hook, and Jan battered his legs. So you add up the math. Imagine he goes up there against um, Alex Pereira, who's got a better left hook than Santos, more power than Santos, and goes up there against Alex, who's got better leg kicks than Jan. It'll be a recipe for disaster if he doesn't try to make it a wrestling match. Like, Ian Gary is a striker, but he grappled Michael Venom Page, which is very smart, because even though he's not known for his grappling, he didn't want to go out there and test his stand-up against one of the most dangerous strikers at 170 like MVP. But let me read some of these comments. What up, my boy? What up, Toron? But back on the Pena topic, I know I'm kind of flip-flopping over with topics, but I had to finish my point on Magomed Pereira, which I'll still get back to that fight. But yeah, I don't agree with Julianna getting a title shot. I mean, the only reason why she's getting it is because she was supposed to have that trilogy fight with Amanda Nunes. But I mean, she didn't deserve that one either. I think Aldana always should have been the original choice for Amanda Nunes. I don't think she should have been the replacement. It always should have been her. And it should have been Pena versus Pennington as the fight that was booked, instead of the original Aldana Pennington 2. I think Julianna should have been taking contender fights since losing her belt. I think she should have already been fighting like 3 times since then. I think she should have fought like beginning of 2023. I think she should have been active. I don't like that she's taking this layoff, but again, she's only getting this title shot because she was already supposed to fight for the belt before. But I still don't think that matters, because Charles Oliveira was supposed to get a title shot at Islam, which he deserved, by the way. And then when he pulled out, he didn't get his title shot rescheduled. He was forced to go backwards in the rankings and risk his spot to Arman. So why isn't Pena being forced to go down the rankings and risk her spot against contenders? Well, I mean, Oliveira wasn't entitled and was willing to fight anybody, whereas Pena, she was holding on to that number one contender spot as much as she could. But I think doing this could be a big mistake. Taking the time off that she's took, I mean, it's given her time to recover from the damage she took against Nunes, but it's given her more time to be washed, essentially, because she's going to be 35 next month, okay? And Pennington's been the more active fighter than Julianna Pena, way more active. And I think the activity might favor Raquel Pennington. Like, I think an active Julianna Pena at the top of her game. I mean, she could be at the top of her game when she comes back. That's all speculation. But if we've seen Pena fight since 2022, I would like her chances better against the current champion. But because she hasn't fought, and I know Pennington is the same age, but with being the same age, she's been in the game. She's been active. She's been grinding. She's been hungry. Pena's been sitting on her ass waiting for one person, and then that one person retired when she pulled out of that trilogy. So, yeah. Let me read these follow-up comments. Let me see. Okay, I read that. Can Poetan stuff takedowns of Ankalaev, and if taken down, can he get up? I do think he can defend the takedowns for sure. And I do think he will defend the initial takedowns. And if he gets taken down, I do think he could get up, but I do believe that Magomed has better control on the ground than Jan did, than Yuri did. So whereas Yuri and Jan couldn't hold him down, I do believe Magomed might be able to control him on the ground, more than likely. But I do think that, like, in the early rounds, Pereira is going to be difficult to take down and control, because he's very big, he's very strong, and he's improving in that area. But if Magomed is smart and he keeps persisting, doesn't take any wild chances on the feet, kind of plays that slow kicking game at range, but forces the clinch on Alex constantly and keeps forcing these takedown attempts on him. I do think the longer the fight goes, I think Alex may pose a little less resistance to the wrestling. And like Jan, he might be easier to take down and control in the later rounds, but he cannot make that same mistake that he did against Jan, because that costed him the win. I thought he won anyway, but he would have won more decisively. There would have been no draw had he tried to wrestle like in the first round, second round, third round. If he didn't wait till like the fourth and fifth to wrestle, he'd be champion right now, or maybe former. Who knows if someone would have took the belt from him since. But if he does the same thing against Alex, Alex is more dangerous than Jan. He's not just going to get outpointed. He's going to get knocked out. He's going to get knocked the F out. So he has to make this a wrestling match from the jump. But yes, to answer your question, I do think Alex can stuff takedowns and get back up. I think they should rebook Ortega Lopez for the spear, make it at lightweight, because Ortega said he isn't going back to featherweight. I would agree, but Lopez at the end of the day only took this fight at lightweight because it was last minute and Ortega couldn't make 145. But I think Lopez is mainly focused on the featherweight division, therefore should take a featherweight matchup. And Brian Ortega did say that he already has a fight lined up for the sphere, but he can't say who it is. But you know what? He didn't fight Lopez, so I don't think they're going to rebook it. And I think Brian's going to fight whoever they already have planned for him in this sphere. But if Brian didn't say that he was, this like definitively making that move to lightweight next, I would agree. Rebook the fight. I would love to see Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. I do think that Brian is a good test for Diego. And I mean, if Dan Ige could give him the problems that he did, I could only imagine Brian. I mean, people count Brian out and they're very dismissive of his skills and they write him off because they don't like him. But you put your feelings aside, Brian Ortega is deceptively really good. And I say, even when I predicted Diego to win, I said Brian is a very crafty, tricky veteran, and he could pull this off. He's sneaky good. And he could be a harder fight for Lopez than Dan Ige was. He had a really good chance at winning that fight, and I was very bummed when it didn't happen. I do want to see it. I don't think we will. I mean, I still think that Diego would beat Brian, but that fight was way more dangerous because Brian has a good chin like Dan Ige. He can scrap like Ige can, but I think he's got better striking than Dan, more power than Dan, and better grappling than Dan Ige. Like, he can play that jiu-jitsu game with Lopez, whereas Dan Ige couldn't really do that. And he might be able to pose problems for Lopez on the feet too. Like, Brian is a good striker. People forget that because Max Holloway smoked him on the feet and Volk smoked him on the feet. But even against Volk, he was semi-competitive in the striking until he got battered on the ground in the third round after failing that guillotine. Then he wasn't the same fighter going forward, but early on, he did okay on the feet against Volk. I think he could handle himself on the feet against Lopez, and he might even be able to catch him too. So I would like to see that fight to see how it plays out, but yeah, I feel like they're just going to go down separate paths, and I think that, man, I'm going on way too long about this, but I think Diego Lopez, again, should focus on featherweight. He called out Volk. If Holloway Topuria is the next fight, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Volkanovski versus Lopez. So if Diego wins that fight against Volk, he's the number one contender and he's guaranteed a title shot. But I feel like that fight wouldn't happen. I feel like that's not like a doable fight or realistic because I feel like Volk wouldn't take it. So I do think maybe the fight to make should be him and Josh Emmett. That'd be wild. Or him and Yair Rodriguez, which I think he'd beat Yair because I think he could just grapple him. If he strikes with Yair, he might lose. But if he's smart and uses his grappling, then he wins. And that Emmett fight's kind of 50-50 because Josh Emmett, even with what he lacks in skill, he makes up for with his power. And there's openings to catch Lopez. And I think Emmett could definitely hurt him. And Josh is also very tough as well. Very tough. Not the easiest guy to finish. And if he can stay in that fight and last like Ige, and he puts hands on Lopez like Ige did, he might be able to knock him out. Like right now, we still don't know how good Diego Lopez is. We just don't. I mean, he's good, and I picked him to beat Ortega, but I do think he could get fraud checked in the near future. Like he's still relatively untested. Well, that's not true. He did fight Evloev, and he did really well in that fight. So I don't want to say he can't hang with the top guys, but I do think we need to kind of ease back and pump the brakes on hyping him up because we've seen a lot of prospects get the hype that Diego's getting and they get shut down. Now let me see more of these comments. He better use his grappling because Alex will KO his ass badly. Oh, for sure. If, like I said, if Santos is dropping you, imagine Alex Pereira. What card do you think Weili versus Tatiana will be on? I'm glad you asked. Like I'm Brian Ortega. I'm glad you asked. I don't know. I was hoping it would be at UFC 305 in Australia, but now we're in the month of July. That card is like a month and a half away. I feel like that fight between Weili and Suarez would not be booked like a month from now. I was hoping it would be in August, but I doubt it. There's a good chance it could be in the Sphere. Maybe they have 2 WMMA title fights on there, and then they have 1 male title fight to top the card because I remember there was one pay-per-view Weili was on that had 3 title fights. 2 of the 3 were women's title fights. And one was a flyweight title fight. So I could see a similar case in this scenario, especially because, you know, Suarez is from a Mexican descent. They could put that on that card. But in all likelihood, that might end up, you know, taking place maybe in Madison Square Garden in November or December. But I don't want to wait till like November or December to see that fight. Like the sooner this matchup happens, the better. So I'm hoping by some crazy chance it's August 17th or at least September the 14th. But more than likely it's probably going to be like in the late fall, unfortunately. And that will be like Tatiana's only fight this year. But yeah, I'm trying to see that fight now. And it's been a whole year, not a whole year, but it's almost going to be a year since Tatiana last fought, which is crazy. And Amanda Lemos, and I think Verna too. I think they fought like twice since Tatiana last fought, or at least Lemos fought twice since. So, and that fight with Lemos and Verna, that's gonna be a title eliminator to decide the next challenger. But I do also think that fight being booked confirms that Suarez is the next challenger because she's the number 1 contender. So I do think that Lemos Jandiroba is to decide who gets the winner of Weili Suarez. Hopefully, though, with all these fights getting canceled, which I'm kind of scared that Suarez might get injured again because the injury bug is going crazy this summer. So I'm kind of worried that she's going to pull out again and either Verna or Lemos is going to step in and fight Weili. But nah, knock on wood. I didn't even knock on wood there because my table is not made of wood. But yeah, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. I don't think it's I don't think anyone besides Izzy. I don't think it's anyone besides Izzy that does well on the feet with Alex. That's true. I mean, Jan Blachowicz did well on the feet against Pereira, and Yuri Prohaska in the first fight did good on the feet against Alex as well. And I feel like Jamal Hill didn't do too horrible either until he got caught. But you're right, though. Adesanya right now is the only one in the UFC across 185 and 205 that can actually strike with Pereira and hold his own and do more than hold his own. He's one of the few guys who can actually outstrike Pereira. Like Israel Adesanya is one of the only guys that Alex has fought who has the threat of being able to outpoint him and knock him out too, which is crazy because Izzy doesn't have the power that these bigger 205ers have. But the reason why Izzy's been able to knock out Pereira, it's not even just the weight cut, because I'm pretty sure in kickboxing, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think their fight was at middleweight in Glory. I think they might have fought like at 195 or something. Alex might have even fought like at 200 pounds against Adesanya in that fight in Glory. So or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the weight cut is why Alex was getting rocked, but back then Pereira was actually smaller, so either way, the weight cut wouldn't be a factor. I just think it's Izzy's sniper-like precision. Like he's just very sneaky with his shots and very sneaky the way he sets traps, and he's able to set up Alex for that right hand the way others aren't. Like guys like Jan and Yuri and Hill, they kind of swing for the fences, and Alex is able to see those shots coming and roll with them. But Adesanya just kind of has that blinding hand speed, and in just the weird, tricky way, he knows how to bait Pereira into that right hand. Like I think in that at first fight in MMA, what Adesanya did, and I think he did this in their second fight in Glory, is he kind of blinded Pereira with his lead hand, that lead left hand, and Pereira's attention was on that lead jab. So when Izzy followed up with that straight right cross, it's the ones you don't see coming that hurt the most. And Izzy was able to fire that right cross while Pereira's attention was on that left jab. And I know he tried throwing that same one too, but it's just not the same as when Izzy throws it. It's just not the same. Like I said, Izzy is just very tricky and sneaky with the way he sets traps and the way he throws his combinations. So I feel like that's the reason why Adesanya has been one of the very few guys who's been capable of knocking out Pereira like these other guys can't. But I mean, a trilogy between them two would be interesting. I mean, at 205, as an Izzy fan, I'd be worried for Adesanya because Alex at 205 is more dangerous than he was at middleweight. His chin is better. He hits way harder. He's just all around more dangerous, and he might hold the advantage. But even still, even if they have a trilogy at 205 and Pereira wins, I still think Izzy would do way better than Jamal Hill and Prohaska and Jan Blachowicz because of his striking and even just his experience against Alex. Like he already understands Alex's game so well. He's fought him so many times, and even vice versa. Alex understands his game. But I was looking on this website. Where's my phone? What's that website called? Looking at the odds. MMA Mania. So it was showing all the betting odds for Alex Pereira against Ankalaev, John Jones, Tom Aspinall. Israel Adesanya is on here. He's still an underdog against Izzy too. So, I mean, these odds makers, they got a lot of faith in Izzy that he could beat Pereira. I mean, he was the favorite to beat Pereira at UFC 287. He's the favorite to beat him now. Even in the current situation Izzy is in, like coming off the Strickland loss, and who knows if he even beats Dricus or is in his prime anymore. People still, I mean, the odds still have him favored. Now, do I think it's crazy that Adesanya is the favorite against Alex? I don't, simply because every time they fought, Izzy was always winning the fight. Technically, he seemed like the better man until Alex Pereira would catch him, because Alex just has that power. He just is that guy. And the first fight was a robbery. Let's be real with ourselves. And then Izzy knocked him out last time. So, yeah, it's not crazy to think that Izzy could beat him again. And okay, well, Gary should not have talked all that crap at the press conference saying he was so much better than MVP standing, and it looks bad to talk stuff and not to talk stuff and not do what you say. MVP was giving Gary was giving it to Gary on the feet. Oh yeah, that was frustrating. I agree. Like if Gary didn't talk all that crap, I would respect his game plan more. But even still, fighters are gonna do this. Like fighters are gonna bluff all the time to try and throw off their opponents. And I think that was a strategy that Gary used on purpose against MVP. And unfortunately, Michael Page was stupid enough to fall for it, because I guess Michael Page, going into this training camp, did not train wrestling defense at all. Didn't train any wrestling at all. Thought that Gary was just going to strike with him, which I don't blame him for thinking that, but you always have to be prepared to grapple just in case, which he wasn't. And I think Gary played the mental game of tricking him into thinking, I'm not going to shoot a single takedown. I'm only going to try to strike. so that it can be easier for him to wrestle Michael Page. Because it's kind of funny because I think Kevin Holland tried to grapple Michael Venom Page, and he couldn't. He tried, and he couldn't take him down. I mean, I think he only got him down once. And I don't think, I mean, I don't know. Kevin Holland, I don't think he talked about wrestling or striking, but it's just MVP clearly was prepared for everything against Kevin Holland. But yeah, he shouldn't have fell for that bait from Ian Gary. Ian Gary clearly baited him with that one, with the things that he was saying. But yeah, that fight still frustrated me though, because I did pick Michael Venom Page to beat Ian Gary. I thought he's the better striker, which I was right. And I didn't think that Gary would grapple. I thought Gary would be the man of his word. I thought Gary would try to like leg kick him at range. I thought Gary might try to even outbox him too. Yeah, I don't know. I went in that fight predicting MVP, thinking MVP was the better striker and would win on the feet. And I thought Michael Page might even score some knockdowns, which, I mean, if they would have stayed standing long enough, or if Michael Van Page's takedown defense was just better than it showed to be, then he might have been able to knock out Ian Gary. Yeah, he wanted no parts of that stand up. Pena should fight Kayla for the number one contender spot. She should fight anyone for that number one contender spot. She should have fought Aldana when that was offered last year, but she's entitled. She thinks that she just deserves to fight for the belt, and no one deserves to fight her, which I don't agree with, because look, I love Pena, but you've never defended the title. You didn't even have a close fight with Amanda Nunes. Like, you got dominated, so you're in no position to say that that you're in no position to have that kind of entitlement. But whatever. Weili Tatiana is going to be crazy. I can't wait to see the grappling exchanges. I mean, the grappling exchanges are going to be all Tatiana Suarez, but I mean, if Weili wants to engage in a grappling match with Tatiana, be my guest. But there's a reason why I'm so confident in Weili, just because, I don't know, just because Weili, or there's a reason why I'm confident in Tatiana, just because Weili, the way she fights, a lot of her fights, the way she wins her fights lately is a lot of clinching and grappling, and the way she strikes as a means to get inside and grab you up in the clinch. And I think she's just so used to fighting that way now, to the point where I don't think she has it in her to fight any differently. So I think against Tatiana Suarez, I think she's going to go out there and she's going to try to beat her at her own game. I don't think she's going to be able to break that habit. I think Weili's going to run into that exact same issue that Valentina Shevchenko did against Tyler Santos, except it's going to be worse for Weili, because Tatiana, unlike Tyler, is a really high level wrestler. She's not just going to rely on size and strength and her jiu-jitsu. Her wrestling game is going to carry her through this fight. Lopez versus Yair would be a good matchup. Definitely. I agree. Lopez called out Volkanovski for the Sphere too. Yeah, I talked about that as well. Lopez could fight Sterling. Honestly, I would like to. That wouldn't be a bad matchup, actually. I think that would be a good fight. A good test for Diego. Go up against an experienced former champion, another really good high level grappler. And I mean, if he can go out there and add a former champ like Sterling to his resume, I'm not sure where Aljo's ranked. He might be like top 7, maybe top 8. If he can go out there, beat a guy like Aljo, that'd be huge. That'd be a huge milestone for his career and his resume. And then he might be able to earn himself a title eliminator after, potentially. Because I mean, right now, I don't see why Volk would have a reason to take a fight with him. But if, let's say, he goes out there and, destroys Aljo, which is a tough fight, if he goes out there and runs through Sterling, that might give Volk more of a reason to want to fight him. Or that might even give Brian Ortega more of a reason to want to, reschedule that fight with them. If Tracy, you think 5 rounds if Tatiana, let me read this in order. If Tatiana beat Wei Li, she will be champ for a long time as long as she can stay injury free. Yep, agreed. You think 5 rounds benefits Rose? I do, especially now that they're at altitude. They're going to be fighting in Denver, Colorado. It's going to be tough for Tracy because she was supposed to fight Miranda Maverick like in the Apex at sea level, and now she's got to prepare to fight at altitude last minute in Denver. I think Rose is going to have the elevation advantage. Um, so yeah, I think Rose is going to win the fight against Cortez. I see a lot of people saying Tracy's a tougher fight than Barber, which I totally disagree. I think Cortez would lose to Macy Barber, and I think Macy was a tougher fight. If Macy can, if Tracy can mix in her wrestling, things might get tricky. Mm, I don't know because Rose Namajunas is very slippery in the grappling. Her takedown defense is good, and she's very tough to hold down, and she can always hold her own on the mat as well. Um, yeah, I don't really see how Cortez wins. I watched some of her fight with Jazz Divigius today. I got to finish it. But Jazz was landing some good shots on her, and Rose is a very good boxer. And I could see Rose piecing her up. I mean, even if Tracy does somewhat well, I think it just might be like the Amanda Ribas fight where she might put up somewhat of a fight, but she loses a decision. I don't really see like where she, I mean, other than wrestling, I don't really see what danger she presents to Rose. Like Barber at least had knockout power. Barber is very strong in the clinch. Barber had potential to go out there, make it dirty, make it a brawl, overwhelm her with pressure. And her clinch striking is very dangerous as well. Like when she gets you in the clinch, her elbows are nasty, her knees are good. And I think she's more physical than Tracy Cortez as well. And Macy Barber also is familiar with with that atmosphere in Denver, Colorado, with that altitude. So I think cardio wise, she would have been okay. And I think that was a fight where Rose would have had to have been perfect for 5 rounds because Barber is just a dog, and she gets better the fight goes on. And with 5 rounds, she always has enough time to make something happen. So, and I was gonna pick Macy Barber to win that fight against Rose as well. And it's a damn shame that fight isn't happening now because there was a storyline there. Like Macy Barber trained with Rose in the past, and Rose used to get the better of her in training, but usually the one who always does better in the gym loses the fight when they actually fight. Rashad Evans used to beat up John Jones in sparring all the time, lost when they actually fought. Cody used to beat TJ in the gym all the time, lost when they fought. Volkov used to lose to Sergey in the gym. He beat him when they fought. So we could have seen a similar case. We could have seen a similar scenario here. And also, like I mentioned earlier, Macy Barber also holds wins over a lot of Rose's teammates. Not all of her teammates, but she's beaten Aldrich and she's beaten some other girls Rose trained with. So this was a chance for Rose to get revenge, get avenge all her teammates against Macy. And I remember Macy did that post on Instagram where I think she was crossing out all of the heads of the people she beat from Rose's gym and then circled Rose's head saying only a matter of time. I wish we could have seen that fight based off that post, based off the history, but oh well. If Rose wins this fight, they can always reschedule it. Now, let me read this other comment. Prime Anthony Johnson probably would have cracked Alex Pereira's chin. I was thinking about that fight a few days ago, but I'm not so sure. Like in all honesty, like Rumble might lose that fight. Rumble might get knocked out in that fight, honestly. I mean, he got dropped by that guy that he fought. I forgot his name. That one dude that he fought in his Bellator debut. He got dropped getting over aggressive. And Alex Pereira is a very dangerous counterpuncher, more dangerous than that dude. Let me look up that guy's name. Let me just go on Sherdog right now, real quick. Let me look up Anthony Rumble Johnson. Anthony Johnson, Sherdog. I just want to remember what that guy's name is. Hold on, it's just loading. He fought Jose Augusto. Yeah, and Augusto is nowhere near as dangerous as Pereira. I think Pereira is a way more technical striker than Rumble Johnson. And to go with being more technical, he's got the power to knock Johnson out. Um, and I think Johnson's also an orthodox striker too. And Alex Pereira does very good against orthodox strikers. If you're southpaw, he'll beat you anyway, but you'll do better against him on the feet. I think Anthony Johnson loading up for that overhand right might get himself knocked out with a left hook. However, one thing I will say though is Anthony Johnson has a strong wrestling background. And there's a very good chance that he could mix it up. And Rumble is a smart fighter. I do think Anthony Rumble Johnson would respect the dangerous striking of Pereira. And I do think that he might actually try to wrestle because if you think about it, he did fight a very similar opponent in Jimmy Manawa, who was also a very good kickboxer who was known for the left hook. Now, I'm not trying to compare Manawa to Pereira. Like, Pereira is way more dangerous and better than Jimmy Manawa, but they're similar in styles. And Rumble Johnson wrestled him. Like, he rocked him on the feet in the opening exchange and then immediately started wrestling because he knew how dangerous Manawa was. And then when Manawa was worried about the takedown, then it opened up the striking opportunities for Rumble, and Rumble was able to knock him out. So it's possible. It's very possible that Rumble can KO him, but if he just goes out there and only strikes, I think he'd lose. But if he goes out there and wrestles and has Pereira thinking about the takedowns, then yeah, he could put Pereira out cold. But yeah, ultimately, I would favor Alex to win that fight, sadly. And plus, it just seems like fate has it that unless you're John Jones, people who beat Glover Teixeira don't beat Alex Pereira. So Alex just seems to always have that. He just seems to be destined to have that Avenge the Master storyline. Although that wouldn't work against John Jones because it's John Jones. He might avenge Glover against Rumble Johnson. But that would be a good fight, though. I would not rule out Rumble's chances, and I do wish Rumble Johnson was alive today. Rest in peace. Rumble was like my favorite light heavyweight back in the day. If he was still in the UFC, if he never retired after losing to Daniel Cormier, and he stayed in the UFC, didn't go to Bellator, never got sick, never died, and was still here, that would have been such a great fight, and we might have seen it. And maybe you're right, Toron, because it's Rumble. You can never underestimate that power of him. I've seen a lot of people saying Pereira is now above Khabib in the GOAT list, but I disagree. Oh, hey, what's up, Nathan? Nathan from Instagram, right? I've seen a lot of people saying Pereira is now above Khabib on the GOAT list, but I disagree. Khabib has more and better title defenses and has only ever lost one round. But if Pereira wins the heavyweight belt, he'd be over Khabib. Yeah, I agree with that take, honestly. I mean, Khabib only like has one more title defense than Alex does. Like Alex has two, Khabib has three, but Khabib undefeated, never lost. And like you said, he's only ever lost one round in his entire career. But if Pereira was able to win the heavyweight title, he would be above Khabib, but I don't think he wins the heavyweight belt. I mean, his only chance at winning the heavyweight belt is if Cyril Gane was the heavyweight champion, or if somehow Pavlovich became champ or Volkov became champ, he might be able to win the title. But he's not beating John Jones. He's not beating Tom Aspinall either. And if Curtis Blades beats Aspinall and John Jones beats Stipe and retires, and Curtis becomes the undisputed champ, then yeah, Pereira is not winning that title. People seem to disagree with this. Well, of course they do. Of course they disagree because they hate Khabib. He's Dagestani, and fans like to bandwagon hate people from that part of the world because it's cool. I mean, that's why people hate Ankalaev. That's why people didn't want him to even get a title shot to begin with, because he's Dagestani. That's why people don't like to give him credit. But yeah, I do think it's dumb. I have a feeling it's going to be Justin Gaethje versus Brian Ortega at the press conference. What press conference, though? What press conference are you talking about? Or you mean at the Sphere? Like, you think that's the fight they're going to make? If they make Gaethje versus Brian Ortega, I think Gaethje's going to bounce back, and I think Gaethje's going to crack Brian Ortega. Because I don't think Brian can strike with Justin Gaethje. Now, he could submit him if it hits the ground, but Brian doesn't have the wrestling to go with his jiu-jitsu to get the fight to the ground. Um, I mean, he is tough and he does have good pressure, but he doesn't have that Oliveira Khabib level pressure or even that level of striking. So I think Gaethje would knock him out and win that fight relatively comfortably. And Gaethje rarely ever loses 2 in a row. The only time he's been on a losing streak was when he lost his undefeated record. Um, that would be crazy though if Gaethje and Ortega fought the Sphere. And I mean, if Brian were to beat Justin Gaethje, that would open him up for a potential title shot at 155. But speaking of title shots at lightweight, Michael Chandler is saying that he's been offered a title shot at Islam, which that's crazy. Um, and I guess this means Armin's not fighting in October, but I disagree with the UFC going with Chandler as an alternate. I think if anything, they should give the title shot to Max Holloway and let Volk have his rematch against Ilya. Because I mean, Max Holloway already knocked out Gaethje, was like one of the top 2 contenders at lightweight. Max shouldn't even be ranked number 9. He should be ranked top 3 in the lightweight division. They should just go with Max. Why Chandler? He's coming off a loss to Dustin where he got finished. Not like he lost a split decision. He got finished. Hasn't fought in 2 years. And if the fight happens, I mean, I know people are going to talk about how, Chandler has a good chance because of the wrestling and the power, and Dustin did a good job against Islam, but people always ignore the 35 and over curse when it comes to these smaller weight class fights. They always ignore that. No one at the age of 35 and up in these lower weight classes win title fights. Now, I don't like to, I mean, I do talk about curses, but on this channel, I don't like to talk about curses because I don't want to sound superstitious. But I do think that statistic is very valid. Okay, superstition or not, you got to take that into account. And if anyone is going to be the first one to win a title fight in those lower weight classes at the age of 35, Michael Chandler is not going to be the one to do it. Because yes, even though he does have a good style against Islam, Michael Chandler is very reckless. His cardio is not that good. And I think Islam Makhachev could outstrike him, honestly. I mean, he outboxed Dustin Poirier, went toe-to-toe with Dustin. I think he'd do fine against the sloppy, wild striking of Michael Chandler. And he would take down Michael Chandler. I don't care what anyone says about his wrestling. Like, he's taking Chandler down. If Charles Oliveira could take him down, like when he went for a takedown, there's a reason why Chandler went for the guillotine, is because he couldn't stuff the takedown. Imagine if Makhachev's going for takedowns against him. He's getting taken down. Even if he's able to stuff the initial takedowns and keep it standing, Islam's defense on the feet is already so good. His composure's good. I don't think that Chandler catches him on the feet. And I think Makhachev would be able to wear him out. And I think Islam would probably submit him, honestly. If Dustin Poirier could choke you out in the mid rounds after tiring out, then I think Islam could do the same. Or honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Makhachev chinned Michael Chandler, but that ain't the move. It's either Max Holloway or another alternate. If you're gonna give someone coming off a loss a title shot at Islam to replace Armin, why not Charles Oliveira? Because many fighters coming off a split decision loss have gotten title shots to fill in for someone who's pulled out. Like Corey Sandhagen lost by a split decision to TJ Dillashaw, and then TJ got injured, and then Corey got a title shot, an interim title shot. Yoel Romero, he got a title shot coming off a close fight with Paulo Costa because Costa was injured. Oliveira lost a split decision. Now, I do think that should have been unanimous, and Arman won clearly. Still, I mean, Oliveira had his moments in that fight. He was already supposed to rematch Islam before. He's still a top contender, and it's not like Arman finished him. So I think he has a better case for getting a title shot than Michael Chandler. Like, why would they award Michael Chandler a title shot for waiting 2 years for a Conor McGregor fight? It makes no sense. That's just the UFC giving sympathy for Michael Chandler, basically giving him a title shot off guilt for making him wait 2 years for Conor just for it to not happen. Dude, if Chandler doesn't get the Conor fight, move on, man. Move on. Rematch Oliveira or fight Max or whatever, but no title shot because he doesn't deserve it. It's not a good look for the company, and it's going to end in a disaster. Trust me. Makhachev would destroy him. Yeah, that's why I said I can't wait for the grappling exchanges because Whaley will try to out grapple Suarez, but will get caught in a submission. Yep. She'll try to grapple with her and get taken down and eventually get submitted, probably in the third round. Early on, she might offer up some resistance to the takedowns, but once she starts to tire out from all that grappling, she's going to pose little to no resistance and eventually get subbed. What's up, C? What's up, James Perez? I see some holes in Lopez's stand-up. He leaves his chin in the air. Ige was like, exactly. And his striking is very predictable. It's dangerous, but it's predictable. And that's why I said Brian had a good chance at catching him. Because Brian Ortega, he may not be the best striker in the world, but he's very underrated at countering guys. Like, he's very sneaky with catching you coming in. And also, he's very sneaky with setting up like elbows, spinning back elbows or traditional elbows. I mean, he caught Frankie Edgar blitzing with a lead elbow, rocked him. When Zombie tried running him down, Brian Ortega was able to drop him with that spinning back elbow. So Lopez would need to be careful in that fight. But then even not just Brian, other guys could counter Diego Lopez and hurt him. I mean, could you imagine if Lopez fought Topuria and he fought Topuria the way he fought Ige, leaving himself open like that? He's getting chinned. Enjoy the rental and gift, my man. You got a couple more months to celebrate your girl before order is restored. Oh, you're talking about Valentina. Nah, Valentina's not winning that fight. I'm sorry, man. She's losing. And honestly, I'm more confident in Alexa Grasso the third time around than I was for the first fight and the second fight. Because the first prediction, honestly, I mean, I wouldn't say I was that unconfident, but that was more of a prayer's hope prediction. You know, I love Alexa. I was feeling some bias, but I did see a path to victory for Grasso, so I went off that and picked her. And I kind of had a feeling she'd do it too. The second time, I wasn't super confident because I knew that Val was winning the first fight till she wasn't, and I knew she was coming for blood. And I knew that Grasso had an uphill battle to climb, but Grasso's already fought her twice already, and so is Val. They both have a good understanding of each other's games now, but I don't know. I feel like this third fight's going to be the true passing of the torch. And I feel like this time is when Val's age is going to show. Where the second fight, her age didn't show. I think it's going to show in this one. I think Val gave her absolute best performance, and she did the best she could in that second fight. But I feel like that's the best she'll have ever been able to do against Grasso, and I don't think she'll be able to do any better. Whereas Grasso has a lot to work on, a lot to improve on as the younger fighter, and I think Grasso's going to come back a lot better this time around. I see her take down the fence being better this time. She already has such a massive advantage with her hands. Overall striking, I mean, Valentina is a better overall striker, but Grasso is one of the only rare people who can actually go toe-to-toe with Val and outstrike her. So as long as her takedown defense is on point, I think she's winning this one. I mean, the only way Val's winning is if she can wrestle Grasso to a decision. She's tried that path to victory twice, didn't work, and I don't think third time's going to be a charm. I'm going to pick Alexa Grasso to win this. And honestly, I'm going to go bold. I'm going to pick Grasso by TKO. I mean, she already dropped her the second time around in the second round. And I think she's going to drop her again, and she's going to actually capitalize this time. I'm just getting those vibes from this rematch because there's been a lot of close fights where someone arguably got robbed. They run it back, and that person who got robbed, they get finished. Volkanovski, Joanna, and I think that Val's going to fall into that category. Or if not, I think that Alexa Grasso is going to win a clear decision. But who knows if that fight's even going to happen because Val said she will not fight Grasso again on Mexican Independence Day. So if she doesn't take the fight, then it's going to be Grasso versus Manon Fiorot. And Grasso's going to win that fight because Manon Fiorot doesn't really grapple offensively and she's not as well-rounded as Valentina. So that's going to be mainly a striking match where Grasso's going to win. Weili won't engage the grappling as much as you think, bro. I mean, she better not. But I mean, even if she doesn't, just the way she's built and the way she's proportioned, she always ends up falling into a clinch grappling exchange one way or another. Excuse the fireworks, it's Canada Day. It's not a gun going off. But yeah, no, like, she doesn't have that kind of striking style where she's able to. It's hard to explain, but Weili's a short range, short distance striker. So one way or another, she's going to be open to the clinching grappling exchanges. And when she gets grabbed a hold of, she's going to try to respond with getting a takedown of her own, like she did against Carla, but that's just not going to work against Suarez. Whereas if Tatiana were to fight Rose or a prime Joanna, Suarez might have a harder time working her wrestling because both them girls are long, very good at controlling range. And Suarez would really have to close the distance to get her takedowns. Joanna, Rose, good at keeping distance, which would make the takedowns harder to get. Whereas Weili, short limbs, short distance, short range striker, the takedowns are going to be there. And Weili has to close the distance to work her striking. She's not a long range striker, so it's going to be tough. Mayra is ass. Agreed. Overrated. Absolute fraud. I gave her way too much hype, way too much credit for standing guillotine choking Holly Holm, who's ass, who sucks as well, and also just past her prime. I should have picked Raquel Pennington to win that fight because I don't know. I kind of had a feeling Raquel was going to win that, but I didn't trust my initial instinct. Same way I didn't trust my initial instinct with the Macy Chasson pick as well. I also initially kind of thought that she was going to lose to Macy, but then I ended up picking her because I bought the hype. You know, I thought with Raquel Pennington, Mayra Silva choked out Holly Holm. She's a hot prospect with a good submission game, so she'll beat Raquel. And I gave her striking way too much credit, but she got exposed against Pennington. And from there, I should have known better and picked Macy. But I thought, oh, well, Raquel is better than Macy, and maybe stylistically she'll have a better chance against Chasson. But nope. And even if it wasn't for that cut, I do think Macy was going to win that fight either way because, you know, Macy Chasson, I could tell her game plan was to weather the early storm, let Mayra tire herself out, and Mayra kind of fell for that game plan. She went all out early, and she was already starting to slow down, and she was already getting hit a lot cleaner and easier. And I just think it was going to go downhill from there. She got taken down with ease, couldn't submit her off her back. So I think Macy Chasson was going to win that fight by decision. And yeah, Smith sucks. I mean, I can't believe this guy. Like he has such a clear path to victory to beating Roman Dolidze, and that was such a stylistically favorable matchup. This guy beat Alexander Gustafsson somehow. This guy, I mean, he did better against Glover Teixeira than he did against Roman Dolidze, despite losing. Holds his own against a former champ like Glover. Does semi okay against John Jones. You know what I'm saying? Has a good run in 2021, derailing prospects. And this guy can't beat Roman Dolidze on the feet because Roman, I mean, he did grapple, but he mainly won that fight through outstriking Anthony Smith. So that just shows how washed and deterred Anthony is. I mean, I don't think Anthony was ever that good, but he was better. He was at least better. I mean, if you look at his striking when he fought Jimmy Crute, he was way faster, way sharper. His jab looked good. And I don't think Roman Dolidze is better than Jimmy Crute, even now. So, yeah, that's just insane. But, yeah, Anthony Smith should be, like, ashamed of himself for that performance. And he should keep Alex Pereira's name out of his mouth. I mean, with that pathetic performance, you don't deserve to fight the champion. And honestly, I think Anthony Smith should retire. I really think he shouldn't be fighting right now. I think he needs to stop fighting and focus on his analyst career because he's a much better analyst and commentator than he is a fighter right now. And who knows, maybe what could have affected Smith was the short notice and changing opponents twice. You know, we went from preparing for Olberg to then Dolidze, but even still, that's no excuse. You shouldn't be losing to Roman Dolidze like that. James Grasso said that she might be fighting Manon at the Sphere. Something about Val might not wanting to fight because there's bias for Mexican fighters. Yeah, that's what I pointed out. But it doesn't matter. Grasso's going to win anyway. I don't care. Alex more technical on the feet than Anthony Johnson. Either can crack each other. That's true. I mean, whoever would land first would win that fight. But I think with the technicality of Alex Pereira and how dangerous it is to engage him because he's always going to throw that hook in your direction when you try to walk him down, it's more likely that Alex Pereira would catch him first. And that's why, like I said, Alex or Rumble would need to set up his striking with his wrestling in order to knock him out. Anthony Rumble would have KO'd John Jones. Man, I wish that fight would have happened. Anthony Rumble Johnson and John Bones Jones. Damn shame that fight got away. That fight was supposed to happen when I was 15 years old. I remember how hyped I was for that fight because I just knew deep in my spirit, I just knew that Anthony Rumble Johnson might have been the one and he had a great chance against John Jones. Even though on paper, not Anthony Smith, on paper, overall, I think John is the better fighter than Rumble and like would win that fight 8, 9 out of 10 times. With the power Rumble has, I just had a feeling he might have had a good chance at beating John. But then when John got in trouble and then Daniel Cormier ended up fighting Anthony instead, I wasn't as excited for that fight. I just kind of knew that I knew Johnson's chances to win the title in that fight were slimmer against Cormier than Jones, even though Jones beat Cormier twice. Styles make fights. You know, DC's a tough little bulldog. Yeah, DC stylistically, I feel like is kind of harder for Rumble than John Jones, which is weird to say because John Jones is more likely to give Rumble more of a chance to strike than DC was. And John Jones is he's more of a long range fighter. He'll try to keep that range. And sometimes John Jones is the kind of fighter who will try to fight you at your own game. So there's a good chance he might have tried to strike with Rumble Johnson, and Rumble might have had space to close the distance to connect that big overhand against John. Whereas someone like Cormier, he's always closing the distance. He's always in your face. He's always smothering you. His style is just more smothering than John, and he's very durable. And DC's just not going to give you that kind of space to catch him like that. Whereas John Jones will. Although John has a good chin, like John Jones, he gets tagged. Like, even though he's good at controlling range and keeping distance, guys have been able to catch him. Machida caught him. Um, Rashad Evans landed a good overhand. Thiago Santos was connecting on him. Cormier was tagging him. And I mean, Rumble could knock out anyone. So it's very possible that Rumble would have knocked him out. And I'm very heartbroken that we never got to see that fight. Because you just never know. I mean, it's safe to say John would have won, but you just don't know. What if Rumble could have won that? But oh well. That's BS, bro. Don't worry, nothing is saving her from the ass whooping on her Independence Day. Wrong. You said that the first 2 times, and what happened? You said the first time Grasso had no chance, and she was gonna get her ass whooped. Who's the one who got pieced up and was wrestling for dear life? Valentina. Who's the one who got knocked on her ass and was wrestling for dear life? Valentina Shevchenko. Who's the one who ended that fight on bottom and was getting her skull pounded in and almost got choked out again? Who got choked out? Valentina Shevchenko. So, I mean, the fact that you're this confident in counting out Grasso when she beat her that first time, went to a draw with her the second time, and arguably should have won that. That's just insane to me. James Whaley will engage in the grappling. She has fell in love with the grappling. She'll embrace it. She barely threw a punch against Jan. Oh yeah, and I feel like her striking kind of regressed too. Have you guys noticed that? Like I feel like because she's worked so hard on her wrestling, I feel like she's lost the sharpness of her striking because she was able to go toe to toe with Prime Joanna in their first fight. She did really good on the feet against Joanna, and Yan Xiaonan's not a better striker than Joanna. She was competitive on the feet against Rose, even though she wrestled a lot in the second fight. She still did good on the feet. Whereas against Yan, as long as they were standing, it was all Yan Xiaonan on the feet. So I feel like that does show a bit of regression in the stand-up of Wei Li. Bones doesn't want none of Tom. Yeah, I know. And it's annoying too. Like, I'm a John fan, but I hate how he's ducking Tom Aspinall. Like, that's a way better fight than Stipe Miocic. That's the logical next matchup. I feel like that Stipe fight ran its course. I really don't care to see that matchup. I already know John Jones is going to run through old man Stipe and retire him. Tom Aspinall stylistically is a threat. Tom Aspinall can strike with John Jones. Tom Aspinall is a threat to him in kicking range. He's a threat to him in boxing range. Tom Aspinall is well-rounded enough to keep up with John Jones if John wants to grapple. You know what I mean? And he's got the youth. He's got the athleticism. He's better than Cyril Gane. Aspinall could be tailor-made to be the one to beat John Jones, but we'll never know because John Jones will do anything but fight Aspinall. I know he's praying that Aspinall loses to which is pathetic. He's praying that Blades wins so he doesn't have to fight. So he doesn't have to fight Tom Aspinall. And I saw that stupid tweet he did of his little breakdown of how Blades was kicking his ass and was tagging him before he blew out his knee. But if you slow that fight down, Blades didn't land a single clean punch against Aspinall. Even when Aspinall fought at his sloppiest against Curtis, Curtis didn't touch him. And the reason why Aspinall fought that way against Curtis is because his knee was already injured going into that fight. And I think he knew, okay, I have to get this fight over with because my knee is effed up. So I have to end this early, or if the longer the fight goes, it might not end well. So I just think he was in a hurry to finish Blades for that reason. But I think in this rematch with Tom, if he's healthier going into this fight, and also that was 2 years ago too, I think Tom's going to adjust. I think we're going to see a more patient Tom Aspinall going into this fight. He's not going to come out there fighting sloppy and reckless like last time. And I think he should have no problem outstriking Curtis. And I know we haven't seen Aspinall's takedown defense tested, but I'm confident though, because his wrestling is already so good. And Curtis Blades is struggling to take down Junior Dos Santos, the ghost of JDS. can't take down Francis Ngannou. I know he took down Volkov, but even Volkov did well defending takedowns, getting back to his feet. Blade struggled in that fight with his wrestling. So, and he couldn't take down Derek Lewis. I know he barely shot for a takedown, but when he did, Lewis was able to stuff takedowns. So I'm just saying, if these guys can defend your takedowns, why can't Aspinall? And also with the footwork of Aspinall, the footwork and distance of Tom, I do think it's going to make it very difficult for Blades to work his takedowns. I think the only way I see Blades winning this fight is if he catches Tom being sloppy. Like maybe he knocks him out. Maybe Aspinall makes a technical mistake where he lunges with his chin in the air and Blades counters him and Blades knocks him out. That's very likely. But Blades is not winning the fight with his wrestling. I mean, it's possible he could drag Tom in the late rounds, wear him down. But I don't know. Even Blades' cardio isn't all that great. I mean, he gassed out against Volkov, so I don't really think he's going to have that big of a cardio edge in this fight either. So, yeah, I think Blades honestly got lucky in that first fight. And I think he's losing. Okay, let me read more of these because Yana was whooping her on the feet, bro. Yeah, but Amanda Lemos wasn't whooping her on the feet. I mean, I understand she wrestled because, Amanda Lemos has power. You don't want to take that risk, but she wrestled a lot. I'm not faulting her for mixing in wrestling in her game. I think that's great that we're seeing her embrace that side of her, being well-rounded, showing that she's not just a threat on the feet, she can also take you down. That's good. But again, Joanna in the second fight was no threat in the stand-up, and she still wrestled a lot. So I do see what the other guy is saying. The fact that she's wrestling so much in her fights, I think she's so mentally conditioned to wrestle now in all these fights. Kind of like Valentina. Like Valentina is so used to going for takedowns in the clinch. And that's why she ended up getting herself in trouble against Santos, because she's kind of fell in love with that part of her game. And it worked against her. So, but we'll see. People deriding Alex like crazy. They think he'll beat Tom too. It's hilarious. I know it's stupid. He stands no chance against Aspinall or John Jones. Like, I understand people saying, "Oh, he shouldn't be the underdog against Ankalaev or even Israel Adesanya." But I mean, come on. Like, how does he beat Tom Aspinall? I think on the feet, Tom would do just fine against Alex Pereira. And if he wants, he'll easily take him down. And I think he submits him in the first round. I think if you can do Alexander Volkov like that, if you can go out there, smoke Volkov in the grappling, who's very hard to grapple, by the way. Volkov has improved in that area. Verdum couldn't submit him on the ground. Blades couldn't finish him on the ground. If you're going out there and finishing Volkov on the ground, who hasn't been finished on the ground prior, at least in the UFC, he'll have no problem submitting Alex Pereira. But yeah, he smokes him like a blunt. And honestly, if that fight happens, do not be surprised if Aspinall knocks out Alex Pereira on the feet. He might be able to do it because he's got better striking than Yuri Prohaska. He's got better striking than Jamal Hill. His defense is better than both. He hits harder than both. And he's a lot more slicker with his boxing than those guys I just mentioned. So he's got better odds at catching Pereira. Blade's not beating Tom. I hope not. But I agree. I agree though. I don't think Tom's losing that. I am a bit worried though. Like, I'm a little bit worried, like, because anything can happen, and the John Jones curse is very real. A lot of people who are regarded as the one to beat John Jones or talk about fighting John Jones, they all end up losing their next fight. Johnny Walker fell victim, Corey Anderson, Weidman, Luke, Jan Blachowicz, everyone who is put in the same sentence as John Jones, they go on to lose. Dominic Reyes as well. So, and Israel Adesanya, he was talking about fighting John Jones, and he got his first career loss to Jan Blachowicz. So that's kind of what scares me. But there's a first time for everything. Maybe Aspinall breaks the curse. And also, I mean, Aspinall is better than all those guys I just mentioned. Half of them were either chinny or washed up. Aspinall is neither of those things, but still, you never know. Um, that's good for your girl then. Tat wants Whaley to wrestle. Yeah, that'll definitely favor her. But if Whaley's able to go out there and, avoid, you know, if she doesn't fall under that habit of trying to clinch, or if let's say she just doesn't go out there and she doesn't try to wrestle and she's able to take a pure striking approach without attempting a takedown, I'll be very impressed. Which is very oops, shook the table. It's very possible. But either way, I do think that Suarez will be able to get to her. James Whaley says she likes to beat her opponents at her own game. Yeah, there's that too. Ankalaev is the only threat at light heavyweight. Yeah, I agree totally. I don't see anyone else beating Alex at 205. And now that Alex completely smoked Yuri, I think people can STF you about Jamal Hill being a bum because Yuri Prohaska got smoked all the same in that second fight. He just lasted an extra round longer, but that fight was done once Alex dropped him at the end of the first round. So technically, Alex knocked him out in the first round too. Like honestly, I thought Jamal Hill did better than Yuri. He did better than Yuri did in the second fight, in my opinion. And the fact that he walked through Jamal Hill like that, that makes it impressive for Alex because I don't see anyone else doing that to Jamal Hill. I really don't. I'm not dick riding, but I don't see anyone else doing that to Jamal. I think Yuri on his run before getting starched by Alex twice and potentially losing that chin of his, I do think Yuri, a fresh Yuri on that win streak, or even if they would have fought coming off Yuri's win over Rakic, I think he could beat Jamal and he could finish Jamal, but it wouldn't be as easy as how Alex did it. It would be more of a war. It would be more of a thing of Yuri overwhelms him with pressure and the damage just kind of accumulates and then eventually Jamal folds. But it would not be a thing of he goes out there and just smokes him in the first round. I don't think Allberg would have been able to do it. I don't think Roundtree could do it. I don't think Ankalaev could do that to him. I think Ankalaev could beat him. I don't see him knocking out Jamal Hill. I don't think Jan would do that to him. And I think that speaks volumes to just how dangerous and high level Pereira is. Best striker in the division, and he's got heavyweight power. They don't call him Stone Hands for nothing. But I mean, that's crazy too, because if you think about it, Alex Pereira ran through two of the most dangerous strikers at 205. I mean, Jan is a dangerous striker too, and he's really good, but he didn't run through him. But like Jamal Hill and Yuri Prohaska are some of the most dangerous guys, like currently. I mean, Jan is past his prime. These guys are in their primes. And typically, guys like Yuri and Jamal are not dudes you want to stand with, guys who can both knock you out, both guys who should have had a chance at knocking out Poatan. And Poatan destroyed both, and one of them twice. Like, even with Yuri, I don't see many people doing Yuri like that. Let's see. DJ said press conference. What he said, what are you talking about? DJ said what press conference? He said, what you talking about? I mean, he said press conference, but I think he meant sphere. Maybe like autocorrect must have put in press conference. Maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. Maybe Toron was just tripping. No one is effing with Tom at heavyweight. I agree. Chandler didn't say he was offered a title shot, bro. He did. I saw a tweet. You can even look it up. He did say that. I kid you not. He did actually say that. You can look it up right now. He did say that he was offered a title shot in October. I'm not capping. You know what? I can even pull it up right now. and show you that I am telling the truth. Wait a minute. I think Burt MMA might have even posted it. See? He ain't I'm not lying, bro. He said he's been offered. Maybe he's lying. Maybe he wasn't offered, but he said he was offered. Tom versus Prime Cain Velasquez. Ooh. I think Aspinall would win that fight though, just because it's new gen. New gen beats old gen, and Tom has a very complete skill set to go up against Cain. Whereas a lot of the guys that Cain beat in the past were very limited and one dimensional, like Chet Congo was a pure kickboxer. Brock Lesnar was a pure wrestler with no hands. Junior Dos Santos was a pure boxer, basically, with good takedown defense, but nothing really more to his game, and doesn't do well off the back foot. And it's easy to press backwards, easy to pressure and press up against the cage. And Antonio, or not Antonio Silva. Oh yeah, Antonio Silva too. He sucks. He's got no chin. Um, and it's just a Muay Thai striker with power, but no chin and his ass. And a juice head. And then who else was the other guy? Nogueira. Again, he had some decent boxing, but was mainly a jiu-jitsu guy and was slow. Like a lot of the guys that Cain beat, and then Travis Brown, good striker, but just slow, labored, and overrated. Um, all the guys that Cain beat, a lot of them were just very one-dimensional and were limited, and they were like that was the old competition. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but yeah, Tom Aspinall is like levels ahead of the competition that Cain has fought and beat. Tom Aspinall can wrestle. Tom Aspinall can fight going backwards. Tom Aspinall can counterpunch. Tom Aspinall has better footwork than all the guys that Cain has fought. He's faster than anyone else Cain has ever fought. So I think he can outstrike Cain Velasquez. I think he can catch Cain Velasquez as he's trying to pressure forward, because Cain was pretty open. I mean, Chet Congo was able to clip him coming forward. Junior wasn't really able to find his shots because he loads up a lot, but Tom is very quick. I think he's quicker than Junior Dos Santos, and I think he might be able to snipe Cain, and probably in the first round. But yeah, like I said, I think Tom is well-rounded enough to deal with Cain. He might even be able to take Cain Velasquez down. I don't think he would keep him down, but yeah, I think Aspinall would win that fight. Prime Cain is he was, and he was able to beat the level of competition that was available to him. I mean, I do think if Cain in his prime was competing in this current era, he would still do pretty well. I think he'd beat Pavlovich most likely. He'd beat Volkov. He'd beat Blades. Blades would be another Brock Lesnar to him. He'd beat Derek Lewis. He'd beat Almeida. But I don't think he'd beat John Jones. I don't think that he beats Aspinall prime for prime. Stipe Miocic prime for prime. That's a tricky fight, actually, because I think Stipe could be a very hard fight for him because he can wrestle. He's very good off the back foot, like Tom, very dangerous at counterpunching. I mean, he knocked out Verdum going backwards, and Travis Brown was actually catching Cain Velasquez when Cain was trying to pressure him. And I think someone as sharp as Stipe might be able to chin Cain. He might be able to stuff his takedowns better than JDS was able to do. And also, Stipe Miocic also has good pressure. And he's not like Junior, who's very easy to press backwards. He'll actually stand his ground. He'll get in your face too. So I don't know. I think Stipe might win that, but I could also see how Cain wins. That's a 50-50 fight, but I would say Prime Cain was ahead of his time and would beat most people from this current era, but I'd say Aspinall beats him. Pretty sure UFC never offered Chandler the shot at Islam. He'll be easy work anyway. Absolutely. James, yep, and Cain had wrestling. He would have gave Tom problems. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Maybe he could like drag Aspinall past the first round. Maybe he could tire him out with all that wrestling. Maybe he could smother Aspinall, but Tom Aspinall is not all those guys that Kane beat. Like Kane is not knocking out Aspinall on the feet. He's not outstriking Aspinall. Now there's a threat of the takedown, which could open up the striking. Um, and his pressure was pretty good. His pressure made it hard to strike him. It made it hard to outstrike him. But I feel like Tom, with his ability to counter, circle, and move, I think he'd be able to deal with Kane's pressure. And I think he might be able to find an opening to catch Kane early and knock him out. Kind of like JDS did, honestly, in that first fight. Prime Stipe was pretty damn good too. Don't worry, insisting on giving us bones. Stipe now is a joke. Yeah, and dude hasn't fought since like what 2021 when he last got slept by Ngannou. He's just not going to be the same when he comes back. And I was interested in that Stipe Jones fight when it was supposed to happen, like early 2023. Or not early, late 2023 when it was supposed to happen. But when John pulled out and then the fight got further delayed, and then Tom did what he did to Sergey, I just lost interest. Like, because now it's not only 2 years since Stipe's last fight, it's 3 years. And I just feel like now John has a more interesting challenge in front of him who he's avoiding. And, I don't know, the Stipe fight it's just not interesting right now. It just isn't. I feel like that's a fight that should have happened last year. Honestly, it should not have been Surreal Gain versus John Jones. It should have been Stipe versus John already for the vacant title. It wasn't. They try to make it John's first title defense. It should have been gotten over with at UFC 290. I don't know why it wasn't. And they try to push it back to MSG November. Still didn't happen. I just feel like with how long this fight's been dragged out, it's lost its appeal. And the division is just moving on without Stipe. There's other contenders like Blades, Volkov, Aspinall. These are guys I'd like to see John Jones fight. I don't care to see John fight Stipe. But, John is hoping to cash out on a win over Stipe and have this happy retirement. They can give that title shot to Gaethje as well, who risked the fight against Holloway. No, don't give it to Justin Gaethje. Nah. I'm only behind people getting title shots coming off losses if, say, you're a former dominant champion, or if your loss was close. Like if you're coming off a close loss, but that person ahead of you who was supposed to get a title shot gets injured, and you get the call to step in, I accept it. That makes more sense. Gaethje got dominated, and then he got knocked out at the buzzer. No, thank you. Gaethje's already had multiple chances at the title. He'll fall to Islam just like he fell to Khabib, just like he fell to Oliveira. So, yeah, I don't care. And honestly, I think Arman Saryukin's going to work this whole situation out. He'll probably do that anti-bullying video and fight in October. Nah, she'll grapple some, but I doubt she'll grapple heavy. Yo, I agree. I don't think she'll try to grapple heavy, but even grappling some is just going to be too risky against Tatiana, if you know what I mean. Like, she shouldn't try to grapple at all because it's just going to get her in trouble. He's suspended because he punched the fan walking out to 300. Josh Emmett can possibly KO Lopez. Oh, agreed. Like, Ige was landing some good shots on him. And like I said, Emmett is tough. He may not be as durable as Dan Ige, and Topuria dropped him, and Jeremy Stevens knocked him out. I mean, mainly knocked him out because he illegally kneed him and landed a bunch of elbows to the back of the head, illegal strikes to get the knockout. But Jeremy's pretty tough and good at recovering. And when he fought Topuria, even though Topuria was dominating, there was no moment in that fight where Ilya wasn't in danger. I mean, he wasn't in danger because he was dominating, but there was always a sly chance that Emmett every time he survived each round, there was always a chance that he could have got a comeback KO. And Ilya just had the discipline that he had to not get in brawls, not get in huge exchanges, and to grapple in the last round and not risk striking in the fifth round. Because of course Emmett was going to come out desperate looking for a KO. And what happened last time Emmett was down on the cards and needed a finish against Michael Johnson? He rallied and got the knockout. So Ilya had the IQ and the composure to completely shut down Josh Emmett for 5 rounds. Will Lopez, I don't know. Lopez is pretty wild and he could get himself in trouble. Now I could see Lopez submitting him, like dropping and subbing him, or maybe catching Emmett in a sub as Emmett's going for a takedown, but I would not count on Emmett. Emmett's a live dog in that fight. I think any of these top guys have a chance against Diego, honestly. Any of them do. I think he could beat them. I think he would beat Brian. I think he would beat Emmett. I think he would beat Sterling and Yair. But these are not easy fights by any means. These are fights that he could very well get exposed in. Like Aljo could out wrestle Diego Lopez to a decision, and he could use that experience of being a former champ to his advantage. Emmett's power is always a threat. Brian's vet experience and well-roundedness and toughness and scrappiness is always a problem. So, and Yair's striking is a problem too. So these are all fights. These are dangerous fights that are ahead of him right now. And I believe moving forward, there are no easy fights for Diego Lopez. But I am glad that he will now have a chance to test himself, to show us if he's truly ready to fight for the belt or not. Let's see. James, you got me rolling. You'll see what's up soon. As long as you think Lord Mike Bell for the rematch. I mean, yeah, I don't think the 5th round was a 10-8, but it doesn't matter. I thought Grasso should have won the fight rounds 2, 4, and 5, so I don't really care. It's my opinion. She got jabbed to death the entire first fight, landed 2 good shots, 15 seconds spam. Got jabbed to death with elbows, combos, second fight, had 1 knockdown. That's it. Nah, she was piecing her up pretty good. She landed more than just 1 good shot in the first round. Now, Val was landing some good jabs and good kicks. Grasso landed more significant strikes throughout that first round in that fight with Valentina. Val might have been landing a bit more, but Grasso was the one who was landing the harder shots and was tagging her in that first round. And there's a reason why Val wrestled, because she didn't want to give her that chance. And even if you watch that 3rd round in that first fight, Grasso was walking her down, cutting off the octagon, putting on pressure, making Val uncomfortable, and was still able to tag her up in that 3rd round. Now, the second fight, Val came more prepared to deal with the boxing of Alexa and did better on the feet. And yes, to her credit, she did land some elbows. But, and I know this is MMA, this is not Cope, but if Grasso's takedown defense was pitch perfect in that fight, or Val opted to only strike, do you think Val would have been able to take that fight to a draw or do as well as she did, James? Like, ask yourself honestly. If I know it's not kickboxing, that was a pure striking match. Do you really think Val would win or be close to winning? Because I certainly don't. I think if Grasso didn't have to worry about takedowns, I think as the rounds go on, she'd start picking up more success. She'd find more openings to tag Valentina, to put together more combinations, and she might even be able to find a finish or win a more clear decision. But because Val is well-rounded, she could take her down. It helped her have the success she did. And I do think the threat of the takedown also opened up the strikes for Valentina in that second fight mainly. Let's see. Get the vibes you want, bro. Only reason your girl got the belt right now is because Lord Bell. Okay. We'll find out September 14th if that's the only reason why she has the belt. She said it would be she said it would be fair to fight her on Independence Day, which is a couple weeks before Mexican. But she said she never picks and chooses, just accepts fights and dates. Whatever. Agree to disagree. I'll probably do like a separate video breakdown on that rematch on that fight, but I've talked about that fight so many times. I really don't have much else to say about this fight, but I'm going to be supporting my girl and backing her no matter what. Do you think Weili Tatiana will be similar to Andrade Tatiana? No, I don't, because Weili is levels above Jessica Andrade. I think she'll do better than Jessica Andrade. I think she'll have more scary moments than Jessica. I think she will be actually kind of outstriking Tatiana in some portions of the fight. She might tag her in some moments. She might actually land some clean strikes. Like, she's going to show why she's the champion in that fight. But I do think ultimately Suarez being Suarez with her wrestling game, she's going to make it work. But it's not going to be easy. Not like the Jessica fight, because Jessica doesn't have the wrestling that Weili does, or the level of striking striking or accuracy that Weili does. Myra won round one. She was tearing Macy up in the clinch. She was. And she was doing exactly what I said she should do and what I want her to do. I said she had to target the body against Macy's shots on, which was smart, but Macy just took them well and kept going. But I don't think, even without the cut, I think Macy was on her way to winning that fight, because it didn't look like Myra was going to submit her off her back. I don't think she was going to be able to get the fight to the ground or stop takedowns if Macy wanted to take her down. And whenever they were out in the open, Macy was out striking her. I was rocking with her, but Macy was coming strong. MBS stood up with like she was a dead man. Her cardio was disgusting. Oh yeah, Julianna Pena would have destroyed Myra Bueno Silva, man. It's a damn shame that Pena didn't recover on time. I mean, I know they would have booked the Raquel fight, but in a perfect world, if say Pennington got injured and Pena recovered on time for January and fought Myra, she'd be champ right now. Pena would be champ again, because Myra Silva does not like getting hit. She's not tough. She's not as scrappy as Pena, and she wouldn't be able to keep up with Pena's pressure and cardio. And Pena could out wrestle her. Pena would I think Pena would stop her in the late rounds. I think she'd put on a similar performance to what she did against Amanda Nunes in the first fight, break her on the feet in a brawl, and then take her down and probably submit her, honestly. Yeah, Myra is heavy-handed and mean in the clinch, but her cardio is her downfall. Typical Brazilian. Macy ain't hanging out in the clinch like that with Kayla, because Kayla will Kayla would run through Macy Chasson. I mean, Kayla beats everyone in this division, honestly. Even, hate to say it, she'd beat Aldana, she'd beat Pena, she'd beat Raquel. She's just on a different level with her judo, her wrestling, her control. Dominant grappler that I don't think anyone's going to be able to deal with. The only reason why Pacheco was able to beat her, because she's a lightweight, man. And she just got that dude strength. And not many of these girls, a lot of these girls at bantamweight are feminine and weak in comparison to Kayla Harrison and Larissa Pacheco. Larissa, with that manly strength and that dyke power, was able to get that victory over Kayla Harrison. But yeah, these other girls, yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it off. I mean, if Amanda Nunes were to come out of retirement, she might be able to beat Kayla, because Amanda Nunes also has good judo, good takedown defense, good striking, and power as well. She could potentially stuff takedowns, piece Kayla up, and knock her out, but Kayla might even have a chance of beating Nunes. Who knows? Anthony Johnson would not have knocked out Jones because Jones wouldn't be dumb enough to stand with him. I mean, he did stand with Thiago Santos, and before that fight was canceled, he did tweet saying, "Oh, like some fans said, oh, you shouldn't stand with Rumble." And he's like, "Oh, I always stand with the scary ones." So I mean, that was probably a bluff. I do think John would have wrestled, but I do think there's a chance that John would have tested the striking before going for the wrestling, and that would have given Rumble more of a chance to catch him. I think Norma has a good mindset. She can be a nail and come back too. She does not beat she doesn't beat um she doesn't beat Kayla Harrison, if that's what you're trying to insinuate. And she's gonna get slept in September by Aldana as well. Same way Megan Anderson slept her. Yeah, but Aldana has good takedown defense though. I mean, even when Amanda was taking her down, like even though she took her down 6 times, none of those takedowns were easy. Like Aldana was scrambling, defending, getting back up, apart from the 5th round. Um, but yeah, I think her takedown defense is going to be fine in this fight. She's not Jermaine Duran and me, who was washed and coming off a 3.5 year layoff. This is an active Irene Aldana who's constantly working on her grappling with Diego Lopez. So she'll be fine, and she'll find that chin. I know Irene already beat Macy with that insane leg kick to the body, but Macy was winning. Yeah, she was, but it doesn't matter. The better fighter in the end won, which was Irene Aldana. And I mean, people always love to ignore that Aldana dominated the first round. They always focus on, oh, Macy dominated round 2. Aldana destroyed her in the first round. The stuff that takedown, reversed the takedown, almost got an armbar, and was beating the crap out of Macy Chasson on the ground, but no one talks about it. When Macy dominates round 2, that's all they want to talk about. They ignore Aldana's success. They ignore the fact that it was 1-1 going into round 3. Yes, Macy was winning the third, but Aldana was able to find that up kick from off her back. It does not matter. And Aldana wins a rematch as well. I think she'd be even more ready for the takedowns and would piece her up. Yeah, I know anyone could beat anyone. Pick it up on the comments, guy. You fucking late. Nah, hold on. Now that I know you're barely 25, I'll make it easy on you. You do look young. You're talking about me? Because I am around the age range, yes. Man, if Whaley gas out like that she did against Jan, it's going to be bad because Tatiana will jump on that neck. Facts. Oh, yeah, Jan was definitely piecing her up. James, why is Natalia fighting on Draj? I guess Mickey Maynard had been reading your request. Is this where Jessica gets back in the win column? I mean, I think that Natalia should win. I mean, Jessica has good pressure and she's dangerous with her power. She's durable, but she hardly grapples in her fights. So if she just tries to strike with Natalia Silva, she could get pieced up to a decision maybe. But I said the same thing about Marina Rodriguez, and she technically outstruck Marina and won by decision. So I can't really count out Jessica anymore because I was wrong picking against her in her last 2 fights. All these girls need confidence. They can look at Manon. She went from a sissy after being shook to feeling herself out now. After Irene? What are you talking about? Oh, wait. Okay, I'm confused there because Manon never fought Aldana. Um, she'll get that work soon. Bring her back to reality. Lemos wasn't whooping Whaley all on the feet. Night and day, Jan and Lemos did on the feet. I agree. But like I said, it was smart that Whaley wrestled as much as she did because even though she's a better striker, there's a lot of openings to catch Whaley. Her defense isn't that good. And I do think that Lemos could have knocked her out or dropped her if it would have stayed standing. So smart of Whaley to make it a wrestling match. Let his chat on fire. People sleep on Blades. The stand-up is underrated. Yeah, but Aspinall's a better striker, and it won't be close on the feet. So, well, I'm like several comments behind. I'm just like scrolling through every comment because I'm like rambling. And I'm missing these comments, and it's like 10:28 East Coast now. Yeah, curses aren't real. Verna versus Lemos, who y'all got? Um, I could see Janji Roba winning that. I think she's gonna try to grapple. I'm gonna go with Verna. Verna by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lemos won that. But Lemos did not impress me against Duran, even though she won off damage and out striking Duran. She was getting taken down a lot, which I didn't like to see that. And Verna does have good wrestling. I think Verna might take a similar approach to what she did against Marina Rodriguez. Ilya Max is interesting. Max has the best chin. Could go either way, but Ilya has dynamite. Oh yeah, that is an interesting fight. The height, the range of Max, the footwork, the boxing of Max, the volume of Max, the cardio of Max, the experience of Max versus the composed, powerful boxing and pressure of Ilya Topuria. That should be a good one. And I still don't know who's going to win that fight because I see a lot of people going for Max, but thing is, I've always said the one to beat Volk at 145 was going to be able to beat Max too, because I feel like to beat a guy, if you're able to beat a guy like Volk, then you should be able to beat a guy like Max. But if you can't beat Volk, you can't beat Max. If you can't beat Max, you can't beat Volk. If you can beat one, you could probably beat the other, but who knows? I could be proven wrong because styles make fights. I know Ilya doesn't have the speed of a prime Volk. He's not as tricky on the feet as prime Volkanovski. He doesn't have the reach that Volk does. Ilya's not as good as breaking rhythm as Volkanovski is. Volk's very tough to get a rhythm on in the stand-up, and Max just had a tough time figuring him out and couldn't get his combinations flowing. Whereas against Topuria, it might be different. But I could see Ilya winning like a close decision. I mean, he'll definitely do much better than Justin Gaethje did. But I don't know if he KOs Max. But I could see him just landing the bigger, better shots than Holloway, tagging him in these exchanges, and yeah, maybe pulling through a decision. But Max has passed the victory too. Max could keep that range, make himself tough to hit, play the matador, and Ilya can be open to that head kick. Ilya also dips his head a lot, and Max does have good uppercuts. He dropped Volk with an uppercut. He might be able to catch Ilya with one too. You never know. And Max, we have learned he does have power, so he could also knock out Ilya if Ilya gets sloppy trying to chase the knockout. I think Ilya's power is too much for Max. We're gonna have to see. Ilya can always mix in takedowns if he starts losing on the feet. Oh, totally, because he's a well-rounded guy. I mean, that's what Volkanovski did in that second fight when he was struggling. Even though he technically outstruck Max in the second fight, it was tougher. He sealed the deal in the late rounds by wrestling. Ilya could definitely do something similar. Let's see. Juice Man, what do you like about Aldana? I like her too. I think she's a badass fighter. Yeah, I like her fight style. I like the way she carries herself as well. Just a good example, representative of the sport of women's MMA. Um, and I also, find her. It's no secret that I find her attractive physically. That's part of the reason. But I also just like her fight style. She's just very entertaining and fun to watch. She's just someone that's easy for me to get behind. He likes the fact that she trains with Grasso. You could say that too. Um, Even Ilya had a tough time with Volk until he caught him. That's true. And I don't know. I don't know if he'd be able to trap Max against the cage. I don't know if he'd be able to save his troubles and just touch Max on the chin and knock him out. With Volk, all he had to do was get Volkanovski trapped against the cage, land that body shot, check hook combo, and it was a done deal. But Max isn't coming off a knockout loss and a quick turnaround like Volk. He's not on the older end of his career. He's in his prime right now. So the odds of Ilya knocking out Max are very slim compared to Volk. So he might be able to stun him, but I don't see him getting a straight knockout. Uh, Let me see. James Grasso, Mana, who would you pick? Well, you want to know who DJC would pick? I'm picking Alexa because Manon Furo doesn't really have the greatest striking defense. And I think Grasso could find her shots. She's a lot easier to hit than Valentina was, and Grasso was able to hit Valentina. And delusional James doesn't want to admit that. He was watching a different fight. Because he is pussy whipped by Valentina. So, but yeah, I do think that she could piece up Manning. I mean, Manning could make it difficult because she's tall. She has good kicks. She could still land some good punches of her own on Grasso. And even though I say that, she's not as well rounded as Val and doesn't grapple, I could see her taking a grappling heavy game plan against Grasso. That I could see her mixing it up. And if she does that and Grasso's not expecting it, Grasso could definitely be in for a tough night. Let me see. Her last fight, she should have fought Amanda like that. I know, man. It's so annoying. Like, it pisses me off because she would have put Amanda Nunes to sleep. And what else bothers me too is how in that third round, when Amanda started swinging for the fences and fighting stupid, that was Irene Aldana's chance to counter her and put her in the grave. And I predicted when I picked Aldana to win, I said that she would catch Amanda Nunes in a wild exchange with Amanda Nunes being over aggressive. But Aldana chose to give Amanda too much respect. Even when Amanda was coming at her, she decided to just shell up, let Amanda unload all her punches, and then, yeah, until it was too late, basically. Very frustrating. She had a chance to catch Amanda Nunes in a brawl, and she just chose to be defensive. Is Aldana Dumont a go? Like, actually, no, but they've both verbally agreed, so I think that's going to be the next fight. Okay, let's see. I never said she didn't hit her, but you ignore that Grasso was having her on the ropes with her boxing. I do acknowledge that Val was landing good shots. I do acknowledge that in the fifth round she was outstriking her, but it was mainly the takedown threat. I do acknowledge she did do damage. You act like it was one-way traffic on the feet, which it wasn't. You're not admitting, because you're being biased, you're not admitting objectively that Grasso gave her the toughest time in the stand-up than anyone else Valentina has ever fought. If me and you were to fight, uh, and you have a good moment in a round, but I'm doing better as a work as a whole, you better than me? Not at all. I mean, it really just depends on how the fight goes. Like, if I'm piecing you up on the feet, but then you start wrestling me, but I have a chance, if my best chance to beat you is standing, but I can't stop the takedowns, but eventually I submit you in the late rounds, going forward in a rematch, the objective is to work on my takedown defense so that you have no choice but to stand with me, you know? Now, let's say you have some success on the feet and still have takedown success, but it's a close fight and it's a draw. I mean, honestly, like, it's really hard to say that Val is just that much better. She had two chances to prove it, okay? Two chances to prove it. She already lost the first fight. It doesn't matter. She already had a chance to prove it. She lost, and the second time she went to a draw with her. So didn't do enough to win decisively to where it wouldn't need to be a draw. And I'm just saying, if I did beat you in a fight, I would say I'm better than you. And if I beat you twice, I would say I'm better than you. If I beat you once and there was a draw and we were up for a trilogy, I would say, you know what? It's up in the air and we have the third fight to solidify to prove who's better. That's what I would say and think. And that's kind of my stance on this rivalry between Grasso and Shevchenko. I will admit, if Val does win the third fight, she's the better fighter overall. But if Alexa Grasso beats Valentina in the third fight, she goes from beating her, drawing with her, and then beats her again. It doesn't matter if Valentina was winning the first fight or should have won the second fight. If she loses the third fight, there's no ifs, ands, and buts. And the fact that Grasso already showed the path to victories that she already had, she showed that she can strike with Val and give her trouble on the feet. She showed in moments she can even grapple with her, take her down. Going forward in the third fight, she can easily better capitalize on these moments for a cleaner victory. And plus, she's got the edge of youth, the youth advantage. She's younger. Val's not getting any younger. So we'll see. Like I said, it's up in the air. Whoever wins the trilogy is better. But right now, I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, Grasso's inferior to her. Nah, it ain't going to work like that. What do we think of the new women's bantamweight division? Um, Edith. Wait, who is that? Um, Never heard of her. Never heard of her. Edith. Who? Uh, Found her nowhere on Google. I don't know what you're talking about. Um, Shout out Bootlicker Bisbing. Ha. The reason Grasso looks so good is because everyone else got whooped and didn't do shit. She was close to perfect on the feet against everyone else. That's just such cope, man. That's literally such cope. Oh, the only reason why she did so good because everyone else did so bad. The only reason why she did so good is because stylistically, she matches the best against Val than other people. That's why she did so good. And because she studied Valentina's game for years. Okay, she studied her and she's been always working on game plans ever since her rise to the top. She's always been trying to study her, scout her out, figure out ways to beat her. So by the time she fought her, she was ready. She did her homework. That's why she did so well. And because she's the chosen one. I never argue Grasso won fair and square in the first. I give her that. But the narrative that she's better on the feet is false. Her boxing is better than Valentina. Valentina has better kickboxing and better Muay Thai, but Grasso showed once she's able to get past the kicks, which she can and she usually does, she's able to get those shots on Valentina and more than once. So, yeah, better than anyone else she fought on the feet and better boxing than Valentina Shevchenko. If they had a boxing match, can you seriously tell me that Val would beat her in a pure boxing match? She would not. Would not win a boxing match. Overall kickboxing, I mean, that's tough, but Grasso would still have a chance. And MMA, and okay, I don't know where I'm going with this, but let me scratch that. But in pure boxing, Grasso would win that. And in MMA, Grasso finds a way to get through Val's other tools like the kicks to work her hands. And Val always seems to have a hard time not getting hit clean multiple times by Alexa. How is her boxing better if the first fight, most significant punch as a whole, was Bullet's jab? All she had was a jab, bro. That Grasso had a jab one too. Grasso had way better combinations with her hands. How you land two good punches in a round and jab you over and over again through the fight? All she had was a jab. A singular jab does not make you a great boxer. You are going nowhere with this. I mean, neither are you, bro. You're just completely biased for Valentina Shevchenko. That's all that is. I hope Rose punishes that thought Tracy Cortez. She'll likely win that fight, I think. She was landing some good shots in that third round. If you go watch back that third round, I remember she was putting on that pressure and she was connecting. When Val was back to the cage, I remember Grasso caught her with a good straight cross. She did land it throughout the first fight, though. Like anyone else will tell you that when they were standing, Grasso held a majority of the advantage, other than when Val landed a few weak ass jabs and a few weak ass kicks that hardly did any damage. Grasso was landing the better shots on the feet in that first fight. I'm not talking about the second fight, because the second fight, to Val's credit, she did do damage. She landed some solid body shots with kicks and solid elbows to her credit. Yeah, it is live. See, MMA Art gets it. He's one of the biggest Valentina fans, but even he admits Grasso's a better boxer. Grasso is a better boxer, but Valentina is a better overall MMA fighter. Valentina is smart enough not to stand and bang with Grasso, someone who can match her speed and her power. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. There's a reason why she had to mix it up, because she is the better mixed martial artist, more well rounded. She's got the tools to mix it up and wrestle. So she does that. The path of least resistance. If she just tries to strike and there's no threat of a takedown, Grasso doesn't have to worry about a takedown. Even if Val has slight success, Grasso's going to be able to cut off the cage, close the distance, and she's going to start peppering up Valentina with combinations on the feet. And then what's Val going to do from there without takedowns? Like she needs to be able to go for takedowns or clinch up Grasso to break the tempo, to break the momentum of Grasso striking. Otherwise, she will lose. Yo, B, why are you calling Tracy names? Yeah, calling her a thought, that's not very nice, actually. But I'm still so bummed that the Barber fight isn't happening, man. Really looking forward to that. That was like a grudge match to me, and it's not happening. I really don't care to see Rose versus Cortez. Like, I hope Cortez can put up somewhat of a fight, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about that matchup? I keep seeing people saying Tracy's a tough fight. I personally don't see it though. I don't see where she threatens Rose other than wrestling. And I'm pretty sure you, Lolita Davidovich, I'm pretty sure you said that Tracy might do better than I think. Yeah, that's pretty sad. I heard something with her immune system, which I'll be keeping her in my prayers, man. I hope she can get well soon and get that sorted out. I really do. Because Macy's starting to really come into her own. And it would suck to have her health issues like really it would suck to have her health issues ruin her career. That Denver card is garbage. Oh, I know it sucks. I hate that card. Terrible. Tracy might win. Is that what you're saying? But yeah, I mean, and it sucks too because Cannonier and Weidman were both offered Kevin Holland. They said no. Tracy and Rose was going to be the co-main event. They couldn't find a main event to replace it, so this is the main event. Macy Barber is definitely tougher for Rose. I picked Macy to win, but now I'm picking Rose against Tracy. Yep, same here. Same here. I thought with it being 5 rounds and Barber being very gritty and having that pressure and the ability to make it dirty and overwhelm Rose, I'm like, yeah, I think she wins. But Tracy, striking isn't that good. No power, only has wrestling, which I don't even think her wrestling is that good. So, and she hasn't been that dominant in her UFC career. So I think Rose should win a comfortable decision in that fight. But man, this month of July just really isn't that exciting though. Like I'm not really that excited for any of these fights. I'm mainly looking forward to the fall, but we lost out on Conor McGregor. Um yeah, and I'm not even that excited for UFC 2 or no, UFC 304 or UFC 305 to be honest, man. I mean, we had UFC 300. It feels like it's been a while since we've had like a really good quality pay-per-view. These last few pay-per-views just weren't it, man. Shima. Oh yeah, it sounds like it's autoimmune. Um, but I am rooting for Rose. Yeah, yeah, me too. I mean, with Cortez as the underdog, I mean, I want to see her do well. Like, I want to see a challenging fight. No more easy fights because I just want a fight that I can feel excited about. But I mean, whatever. If Rose wins, it's fine. I mean, the only good fight was the main event on 302, really. I mean, the other fights were 299 was great though. No, 299 was good. 300 was peak. 298 was semi okay, but it was good. It was enjoyable. But yeah, 297 and actually 301 actually was a good card. It just lacked the name value. It didn't have that many big names like Pantoja isn't really enough of a household name to headline a pay-per-view on his own. So the sales tanked. Um I mean, it had Aldo. I mean, the reason why that card did somewhat okay is because Aldo came back as the co-main. That kind of helped. That helped a little bit, but without Aldo, that card would have been even more worse off. And then, man, UFC, oh my gosh, 303 sucked. So many fight cancellations. The main card was terrible. And I had to watch my guy Yuri get slaughtered by Alex Pereira, which was super depressing. Hated watching that, having my hopes of and dreams of him becoming champ again get crushed. So even though Alex carried and saved the card, at what cost? Like I didn't enjoy the main card and I didn't even enjoy the main event because even though we got a crazy finish, Yuri was on the other end of it, man. And I hate seeing Yuri like that. So I'll tell you where we 100% disagree. In the first fight, you were saying Grasso landed more throughout the fight is wrong. I didn't say she landed more strikes, but I did say she landed a lot of good strikes and a lot of good combinations, and that her boxing was a huge highlight of that first fight, and a big reason as to why Valentina had to mix it up as much as she did. She had to go to the path of least resistance. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna try to look at the stats though of the first fight. Hold on a second. UFC 284. No, UFC 285. Let me see that right now. Okay, so Val landed more significant strikes. Grasso landed more total strikes. As a whole, she landed more total strikes. So I don't know. You said she didn't land more. She landed more total. I'm actually surprised that Val landed more significant strikes, but even still, I still felt like Grasso landed the more damaging shots on the feet. I think Brian getting sick killed the main event too. Yeah, man, I was looking forward to that fight, Ortega Lopez. That was going to be a test, a real test for Lopez, a dangerous fight for Lopez. I mean, it would have been just as exciting, if not more, than the Ige fight too. It, if you have mentioned this before, I didn't know you had, because of Adesanya mentioning Pereira and Duplessis. Their careers got them attention and the opportunity to become champ. Oh, because of Adesanya mentioning Pereira and Duplessis. That's actually kind of true though. You have a point. Like with Dricus Duplessis, I mean, Israel Adesanya, the reason why Duplessis even got that opportunity to fight Whitaker is because Israel, when he got the belt back, he called out Dricus. He wanted that fight. And then what happened was they gave him Robert Whitaker. They gave him a chance to potentially catapult to Izzy. So he fought Whitaker and won. But if Israel Adesanya never mentioned Dricus Duplessis, I don't know if they would have made Duplessis versus Whitaker. I feel like they probably would have given Dricus another fight, maybe. Um, they might have done Dricus versus Marvin Vittori or Cannonier, which if he would have beat Cannonier, that still actually could have gotten him a title shot, but he would have just got another fight that may have not been super beneficial for him to be in the position where he is today. So that actually is true. And then him mentioning Alex in that interview, it motivated that monster to come over to the UFC and wreak havoc. But I mean, people always blame Izzy, like, oh, Izzy should have never said anything. But honestly, y'all should be thanking Adesanya, because Alex Pereira coming to the UFC may have been the best thing ever for the company. This guy saved 303. He saved UFC 300. He's given us multiple bangers and great fights. He saved the light heavyweight division when 205 was struggling to have a champ to keep the belt. Champs kept losing belts, getting injured. 205 was a mess for 2 years. Alex brought stability to the division. So him coming to the UFC was honestly a blessing. And I mean, Alex Pereira, Izzy didn't 100% start the whole thing. Alex Pereira is the one who's been trolling Israel Adesanya for years. After he knocked out Izzy, every time Izzy won a UFC fight, Alex kept posting their knockout, kept mocking Israel Adesanya online. That's what provoked Israel Adesanya to say what he said. So what Izzy said was not unprovoked. So, and even at the time, it wasn't unjustified or unwarranted. But to Alex's credit, he did prove Israel Adesanya wrong when Izzy said, oh, he'll be the guy who said, oh, I beat that guy one time and no one knows who he is. He, Izzy motivated him to come back or come to the UFC and prove him wrong. But even still, what Izzy said was not unprovoked. So it's whatever. I'm not really mad that Izzy mentioned Alex Pereira. I mean, people say Izzy should have kept his mouth shut. If Izzy kept his mouth shut, imagine where UFC 300 would be today. We would not have a good headliner for that pay-per-view. 303 would be in shambles. 205 might still be a mess right now. So again, y'all should be thanking Israel. There was a lot of good combinations in my point. It was a 1-2 in the first. Besides that, landed a couple of jabs herself too. It wasn't multiple combinations by Grasso in the first fight. They should thank Izzy. Yup. I was really sad about Yuri. I wanted Diego Ortega also. Yeah, man. Bro, I've been a fan of Prohaska like ever since he debuted in the UFC and knocked out Volkan. I fell in love. Pause, no homo. I became a massive fan, even bigger fan when he knocked out Reyes and was in talks to fight for the title. I mean, he brought life to 205 because, I mean, Johnny Walker was a failed prospect. Rakic was a boring prospect. We had a guy who was legit and he was legit. He succeeded where Walker failed, and he was more exciting than Alexander Rakic. So, yeah, and they gave him the title shot, and he won the belt. And when he won the title, dude, I was so excited when he became the champion. I was so hyped for the Glover Teixeira rematch because the first fight was a good fight, and even though I was nervous for Yuri going into that rematch just because Glover, gave him hell in that first fight, I was worried Glover would win. I was also excited too just to see if Yuri could go out there, put a stamp on it. I do believe Yuri was going to be able to go out there, beat Glover again. He was going to rock the black and gold shorts, defend the belt. Yuri could have made a legacy for himself as champion. He could have went out there, beat Glover, beat Jan Blachowicz, at least had 2 defenses before Alex got to him. But instead, he gets the worst shoulder injury ever, has to vacate his belt, and never got it back. And what's even more sad is if Hill didn't get injured, Yuri might have been able to get the belt back from Jamal, man. So it's really sad that Yuri lost the belt the way he did and will never be champ again. I mean, he can still stick around and have exciting fights, but that does suck as a fan of Yuri. And it sucks to see him lose to the same guy twice, especially because the first fight he did so well in that first fight. And in the second fight, he did worse and gets brutalized even worse. It was just hard to watch, man. But I mean, Yuri did talk about going to middleweight. I mean, if he can make the cut to middleweight and be healthy, I'm all for it, honestly. Maybe he could start fresh and be middleweight champion. Anyways, bro, it's all good. We'll see what happens in the third fight. We're just chatting Anyways, bro, it's all good. We'll see what happens in the third fight. We're just chatting for fun. Exactly, bro. It's all banter. Even when I said earlier, like, it's just all banter. It's just all fun. Izzy gave Alex a boost, but Alex's performances made him a star. I agree. Like, him having history with Israel gave Pereira those opportunities that he may have not gotten if he didn't have that history with Adesanya. Like, having ties with Izzy gave him opportunities to get a matchup with Strickland, like in his third UFC fight, and he was given these favorable matchups because the UFC wanted him to fight Izzy. But if there was no Izzy in the picture, Pereira would have to take the hard road. And who knows, 2 years ago, before Alex fully developed his MMA game, who knows if he could have made it to a title shot and been champ. Combat Badger, not going to lie, I'm scared for Alex because after 4 wins, he loses. This stat holds no weight because it only happened, but now he's on a 4-fight win streak. When has this happened, though? That's actually interesting because this happened with TJ Dillashaw as well. He was known to always lose after winning 4 in a row. Rose is known to lose after winning 3 in a row. So are you talking about like in his kickboxing career? Has he never won more than like 4 fights in a row? Let me know. Let me see. Pereira Tapology. Let me check these stats. That is true. 4 in a row, knocked up. Well, actually, no. He's before losing to Artem Vadatov, he won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He won like 9, 10 fights in a row, but I don't know if he'll go on a 10-fight win streak though in MMA. I feel like with Pereira, he'll probably lose. Like if he beats Ankalaev, he'll go to heavyweight and then he'll lose at heavyweight, and then he'll probably keep dominating at 205. But yeah, I mean, it is possible he could lose his next fight. I mean, Ankalaev stylistically has the best chance, and I know I don't like talking superstitions on this channel, but another reason why Magomed might have a good chance at winning, because he's not a former champion, he didn't beat Glover, and it just seems like Alex is always meant to beat guys who, A, are former champs to add to his resume, or B, guys who beat Glover for the Avenge the Master story arc. Ankalaev, his name is cleared of both of those things. So, in that regards, he might be able to win. And these Dagestani fighters, a lot of them also have plot armor too. So, who knows? Ankh might be able to get it done. But even just all that nonsense I just said, like aside, style-wise, Ankh could win. But he better not try to kickbox with Pereira or he's toast. I said no, it holds weight because it only happened once. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If it was like with TJ where it happened 3 times, Rose where it happened 3, 4 times, yeah, I would see why you're worried. Do you watch MMA Joey? I heard of him, but I haven't really watched him though. No. I mean that's true, but Islam Makhachev also lost to Adriano Martins. Since then, this guy kept winning every fight since. Even some fights where arguably he should have lost, he would find a way to win. You know what I mean? So whereas maybe Ankh arguably should lose this fight, he could find a way to win. Like Islam should have maybe lost to Charles Oliveira because Oliveira more well-rounded, a threat on the feet and on the ground. Makachev dominated everywhere. Volkanovski, I know he's a featherweight, but Volkanovski has a complete skill set, a very good striker, good wrestling to defend the takedowns of Islam. And Islam was still able to beat him. So that's where I'm getting with that. Um, yep. You know what it is, see. Yeah, a lot more people are here towards the end. I'm kind of running out of things to talk about in this live. It's been 2 hours now, and I'm starting to get hungry as well. Um, I mean, if you guys have any more takes or anything else you want to add, I'll respond. Maybe I'll stay for like 5, 10 more minutes or so. Um, but yeah, I'm about to wrap this up soon. How much longer are you going? Like I said, probably like 10 more minutes or so. But if you missed a good portion of it, like this will be saved to my channel and you can go back and rewatch some of the sections that you missed. And don't worry, I'll go live again very soon. And I might even like announce it and give everyone a heads up so like everyone's prepared to show up on time. I still think Vault could beat Ilya. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I mean, he was doing good. He was fighting a good fight. He was winning the second round until he got knocked out. And the first round, you could argue he was winning the first as well, but he was really winning the second. He was actually piecing Ilya up. But I just think the issue with Volk, like he can, but why he won't beat him is his age. He's older. He's coming off two of the worst knockouts ever in his career, two back-to-back knockout losses. And with how much older he's getting, with all the mileage and the damage he's taken throughout the years, I just don't think Volk's really going to be in his prime anymore. I don't think he's going to be the same when he comes back. I think his chin is gone. So even if he, skill wise could still give Ilya problems, all Ilya really has to do is land and he's going to knock him out again, most likely. Sadly, sad as it is to say, it might be another Yuri Pereira situation where Volk gets knocked out in the second round by the same person twice, and probably more depressing than the first one. But I don't know. I feel like in this fight, Volk will get TKO'd but not put out cold. But who knows though? I could be wrong. I mean, maybe Volkanovski could come back and get the belt back. I would not discount that, but I'm rocking with Topuria in that rematch. Yeah, exactly. He might not be the same again or as overly confident. That's the thing. If this is like a prime Volk, like if let's say Volkanovski was 31 years old and he got knocked out by Ilya, and let's say Ilya was his first loss since that loss he had in 2013, like his first loss in like 10 years or so, and he had those Islam fights never happened. He didn't already get KO'd by Islam and was still undefeated in the UFC. And that was the only time he's been knocked out since that one loss back in the day. And he was in his early 30s. I would be more confident in Volk's chances at being able to rebound, come back, and avenge the loss to Ilya. But right now, I just feel like the timing isn't going to work out for Volk. How do you see a potential Holloway versus Lopez fight going if Holloway gets past Ilya? I'm glad you asked. Max Holloway would school Diego Lopez. I don't even think that fight would be close. Even in the early rounds, I think Max Holloway would make Ilya, or he'd make Diego miss. I think he'd beat him to the punch. He'd beat Diego's looping hooks with his straight punches, land better combinations, stick and move. And I think the longer the fight goes, we saw that he slowed down against another Hawaiian and Dan Ige. You slow down in front of Max Holloway, there is no holding on for dear life till the round ends. He's going to get mauled, melted, and finished. So, yeah, Max, third round TKO. I just don't see how Diego wins that fight. I just don't. He's not KOing Max. He's not outstriking him. He's not lasting with him in the late rounds. And if he wants to grapple, Max has good takedown defense. That's a terrible style for him. Thoughts on Jillian? People were glazing her for being atom weight. She's all right. Good looking fighter. Not an elite fighter. I don't think she'll go that much further in the strawweight division, really. I mean, it's no surprise she beat Michelle because Michelle just sucks. But yeah, I don't really think much of Jillian Robertson, honestly. Robertson did dominate, but Michelle was done anyway. Exactly. Ige was doing work in the third round. Ige was a G for stepping on 4 hours. I know, man. I'm glad he stepped in. I'm glad Dan Ige stepped in, saved the co-main event. Because, oh my gosh, could you imagine if Lopez was off the card? That would be sad because we would have to see Smith versus Delidze as the co-main, and we wouldn't get to see Diego Lopez fight because there was so much hype on Fight Week surrounding Diego fighting. Alexa Grasso, Irene Aldana showed up in support of Diego, so imagine they came there for nothing, didn't get to see him fight. That would be sad. Gaethje knocks Diego Lopez the fuck out, I think. Although, I mean, Gaethje does struggle with grapplers, with toughness and pressure. I mean, you know what? I gotta think about that one actually. I could see how Diego wins that because he does have good pressure. He can crack. Gaethje doesn't like pressure combined to take down grappling threat. But I don't. Diego submits him if it hits the mat. Nah, Gaethje wins that fight. I'm picking Gaethje. I know usually fighters in a lower weight class seem to do well against fighters in a higher weight class. It always seems like lower weight class fighters seem to be more skilled than the higher weight class fighters, but just because Diego's not as proven and we don't really know how good he is yet, and Gaethje is tested more than Diego. Gaethje's a safer pick. Because, I mean, he did beat Dustin, he did beat Fazeev, and these are guys that I think would beat Lopez. I think Alexa is going to knock out. I think Val is going to knock out Grasso in the trilogy. I don't see that. She had a chance to do it twice and didn't the first 2 times. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, anyone can get knocked out by a head kick, and maybe Valentina will actually make that a goal to set up a high kick and catch Grasso to the head. But I don't know. I don't think Grasso's susceptible to a head kick, though. Grasso is always well guarded. So I don't see her getting caught by a head kick. We'll see, though. I hope not. But, yeah, I don't think so. And the only way I see Val winning is if it's, like, by a decision. I wonder how did Ortega all of a sudden discover he was sick the day of the fight. That was kind of shady, bro. That was just fishy to me. And I mean, I like Brian, but he does strike me as a very shady guy. Like, it's possible he could have just straight up ducked Diego Lopez and maybe didn't want the fight. Who knows? Islam got to move up to be really tested. I agree. And you know what? The good thing is he's talking about moving up. So if Arman Sarukian, like, if he can't get that fight going with Islam, maybe once Leon Edwards beats Bilal, which I think he will relatively easily, they can maybe do Leon Edwards versus Islam Makhachev for the welterweight belt in October. I do think that Islam has earned that right to move up and challenge himself, and I'm glad that Islam wants to move up. I think at welterweight, he'd be more dangerous than he is at lightweight, honestly, because he doesn't have to cut that much weight. I think he'd be more filled in, a lot healthier, stronger. And I think he'd have a pretty solid chance against Leon. I don't know if he'd win, but I think he'd give Leon a tough fight. Max KO on Gaethje was unreal, man. Still can't believe how that happened. I know. I remember I was at the bar and I was recording the final exchange. I saw Max point to the ground, like, "Ooh, they're gonna have a brawl. Let me record this." I caught that on camera at the perfect time when Max knocked him out, and I posted that on my DJC Combat Instagram account. That was crazy. When he knocked him out, I saw Gaethje drop face first. I'm like, did that just happen? Did Gaethje just get knocked out by Max? Like, wow. I wish I would have picked Holloway to win that fight. I thought about it. A lot of people, Max. I was trying to think of ways Max could win, but I was just too scared, man. Gaethje's a scary fighter. And I've seen Max struggle with Arnold Allen on the feet. Um, I've seen Volk be able to shut down the volume of Max and tag him with bigger, better shots. And I thought Gaethje would be able to do the same, beat up the legs and punish Max every time Max tried to engage. But I should have considered the fact that Volk's more skilled than Gaethje. Arnold might honestly be better than Justin Gaethje in a sneaky way. Well, I don't think he is really, but still, I don't know. I should have considered the fact that Max could still beat Gaethje by just sticking and moving and being the slightly more no, or being the more technical striker. And I also fell for the Holloway Ferguson comparisons, but Max is a way better striker than Tony. So I regret not making that underdog pick. They should make some babies. I always wanted Amanda Nunes and Alex Pereira to make babies. That'd be funny, but I mean, Amanda don't swing that way, so yeah. And I don't know if we're gonna see Alex making babies anytime soon. That guy's a player. I don't think Alex Pereira like bangs chicks to make kids anymore. I think he just does it for fun now. He already has 2 sons. I think he's good. Um, I know, dude. I was shocked. I was shocked when he made it look so easy. I was surprised. Gaethje said he wants that Holloway fight back. Well, he can forget it. Max will win and make it look just as easy as he did in the first fight. So I'm surprised Gaethje didn't retire because I remember Gaethje said he's going on one last run for the title. And if he cannot win the title, one more setback, he loses. But I guess he changed his mind, which honestly, I'm kind of glad Gaethje's not retiring. He's a fan favorite. He should stick around, give the fans some more fun fights, and go out on a win, you know? I remembered Justin Max, and Max had no power against Dustin. Different story against Justin. Yeah, I mean, Max was prepared this time for the featherweight move, like the lightweight move. The first time around, he didn't prepare accordingly. He just moved up like 2 months notice, because they needed to save the card because Tony Ferguson wouldn't. Well, actually, no, they originally were trying to make Holloway Ferguson, but even still, just even on a few months notice, like um even just on a few months notice, I was gonna say again. Yeah, he didn't take it seriously. He showed up as a fat featherweight. And I think that loss to Dustin was a learning experience. And he went back 4 years later, wrote that wrong, and actually bulked up, put on size, put on muscle, and got in lightweight shape. He didn't just move up just to move up. He showed up like a real lightweight. So props to Max for doing that. Um, Not trying to make excuse, but I feel like the nose break during that fight killed Justin. I definitely did play a huge factor for sure. Like, I mean, Gaethje was already kind of fighting horribly in that first round. Like he was swinging and missing, but he asked for that though. Dude kept freaking dipping his head all over the place like an idiot. That didn't have to happen. Max was aiming that spinning back kick to the body, and then Gaethje dipped his head. He ducked right into that. So that's Gaethje's fault. But I do believe that had an impact not on the outcome, but maybe Gaethje could have given a better performance if his nose wasn't broken, but I still think Max would win that fight. But that's crazy. Gaethje was the first guy to drop Holloway. And I remember I got scared because I'm like, damn, Max was doing so good and he got dropped. But Max took control, kept that composure, and you know, when Max got his own knockdown, Gaethje didn't get up. Hooker Gaethje is a good fight. I definitely would like to see that one. I would pick Gaethje though. I think he would win in similar fashion to how Poirier did, but probably no, he'd beat him worse. Brutalize the legs, brutalize the body, destroy him with headshots, and I think he would finish Dan. Do you think Usman is washed, or can he still beat some of these top contenders, JDM, Shavkat, Ian? He beats Ian Gary because Ian is extremely overrated, and he's just not been that impressive lately. Struggling with Jeff Neal, looked like crap against Michael Page. I think Usman would dominate him. In all honesty, I really think Kamaru would win that fight. Um, Jack Della Maddalena would be dangerous. Honestly, I think Usman could beat JDM because Gilbert Burns was able to take him down and control him. Usman is a better wrestler than Burns and a better striker. So I say he beats Gary and he does beat Ian, but I do think Shavkat Rakhmonov of the three is the worst matchup for him. And Shavkat might beat him because he's got the size, the takedown, the fence, the striking, and the chin. So I say Shavkat Rakhmonov wins. Is Usman washed? I mean, he's definitely not all the way in his prime anymore, but he's still good enough to where he can compete at a high level. Because I mean, look at his fight against Khamzat. He did very well in that fight, past the first round. I mean, against Leon Edwards in that third fight, he didn't look the same as he did in the second fight, because it wasn't at altitude, and Leon adapted, and Usman wasn't the same one fight removed from that head kick. But I also just think Leon kind of leveled up. So yeah, it's kind of tough to say. I wouldn't say Usman is like the Usman when he was the champion, but he's still decent enough right now. And I think he's still good enough to beat JDM by decision and run through Ian Gary. Nah, Gary ain't KOing Kamaru. Didn't even KO Jeff Neal. Couldn't even KO Neil Magny. The only time Usman's ever been knocked out was with a clean head kick, which would KO anybody. But that will never happen to Usman again because now he's going to be prepared for people to try to head kick him like that. I wouldn't call Usman washed. Yeah, he's not washed. Not in his prime, but he's not washed either. He's not there yet. And I don't see him getting killed. It took a perfect head kick out of nowhere. Exactly. And again, that's not happening to him again because he learned. He's like, okay, that was an opening that was there before. He closed that hole. Yeah, Tony is a sad case. I really wish the UFC just cut him after he lost to Patty. They should have just forced him to retire. Me neither. I never thought we'd see Tony get this washed. Even when he lost to Gaethje, I had hope that he would bounce back. He'd come back and get some wins, but nope. Just lost to Oliveira, lost to Beneil, played with our hearts when he did good against Chandler, got knocked out, and then loses to Tony, loses to Bobby, loses to Pat. There's no hope for Tony, man. And he's going to lose to Chiesa. And it's sad because the UFC, they just keep giving him these fights. I don't know why they keep giving him these fights. It's like they want him to beat BJ Penn's record for the longest losing streak in the UFC. He didn't style on Jeff Neal. He styled on Magny, not against Jeff Neal. That was a close fight. It was a split decision. And it was a boring fight, too. Definitely didn't style on him. I don't agree with that. Clear or don't let him take care of Shavkat then. Yeah, I mean, Shavkat versus Usman might be the move. I mean, Usman has got to come back at some point. He's the number one welterweight in the world. And I think the path to the title shot or to prove that you can hang with Leon, or you're worthy of a title shot, you got to get through Kamaru Usman. If Ian proves me wrong and beats Usman, it is what it is, and he's ready for Leon. Same thing with JDM, but I think JDM's a more dangerous fight for Kamaru than Ian because he's not a boring decision merchant fraud. He actually has some dangerous finishing ability, very good cardio. Even if you take him down, he'll get up, and moving forward, his takedown defense from that Burns fight could improve. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if JDM beat Usman. I'd be more scared for Usman against JDM than Gary. Gary doesn't scare me at all for Usman. Ian had a much better performance against Jeff than Shavkat. Sure, Shavkat got the finish, but he didn't get touched. Ian didn't get touched. I mean, he may have had the cleaner performance. Maybe he wasn't that sloppy and it wasn't the war, but I still got to disagree. I mean, Shavkat finished the fight. So, and I was more impressed by Rachmanov because he went out there, unlike Ian, he took chances. He showed he has a good chin. He can take the power of Jeff Neal. He can hang in a brawl with him, and he was able to finish him as well. So if you can go out there and you can slug it out with a dangerous puncher like Jeff Neal and out-brawl him and submit him, that's more impressive than just dancing around and out-pointing him to a split decision. Alex fucked Yuri up so bad. Yuri got chinned 3 times. Yeah, it was bad. He got knocked out twice in the same fight. Joe Salty Pfeiffer. Yeah, I know Pfeiffer's a salty guy. So is Jamal Hill, man. Hill, I like Hill, but he just needs to stop complaining, man. He just needs to take the loss on the chin, move on, stop talking about Alex. And it's pathetic because every time he sees Alex, he's nice to him in person, but then on the cameras and the videos, he's disrespecting him and disrespecting him online. So he just needs to stop. He just needs to sit down. Yeah, oh yeah, he destroyed Mark Andre Berry. That was impressive. And I like how he did. I like how he bounced back from the Jack Hermanson loss. DJ wanted to see Irene land a left hand on Noon. I did want to see that. I hope she becomes champion. I agree with the thing on Grasso. Yeah, don't laugh, bro. She'll be if Kayla gets the belt first, it won't happen. But if she gets lucky and gets the title shot first, she's gonna be champ. Izzy or Dricus? I want to say Israel Adesanya wins that fight, but I just don't know where Izzy's at right now because he just didn't look that good against. He looked horrible against Strickland. Maybe it's because of Strickland, but I'm not convinced that Sean would do that to Izzy on the come up when he first became the champion. No way. So Izzy may not be fully the same. And now Dricus, he's got confidence, momentum. He's at the top of his game, but Izzy on a good night style wise has a good chance at beating Dricus because he's a better striker. Duplessis is extremely sloppy. He has good grappling, but Izzy is known for good takedown defense. So, and Israel Adesanya is a dangerous counterpuncher, and Duplessis does leave a lot of openings to get caught. So I wouldn't be surprised if Izzy did knock him out. But I have to think about that one because I could see a way Duplessis wins. DDP isn't great, but he knows how to impose his fight, and he's a winner. Izzy can still win. Exactly. Like Dricus, he knows how to make it work. His physicality, his power, and he's just able to shock guys with just what he's able to do with his physical presence, and he's just able to overwhelm people. Izzy is better technical striker than Alex. Alex just hits harder, and honestly, Izzy just got shut down by Sean for some reason. Yeah, I feel like Izzy just kind of had a bit of an off night. I mean, Sean Strickland is difficult to fight, but Izzy should have at least done way better. I mean, Nazardina Mavov did better. Abbas Magomedov did better for a round. So, yeah, Robert Whitaker would put up a better fight. So, I mean, I think in a rematch, Israel Adesanya would do better. He wouldn't underestimate him. He'd come more prepared and mentally switched on, and he might make it closer. I can see it, but yeah. Yeah, dude, that's pathetic, man. He needs to just ignore the haters. Like, come on. If I had $1 for every time Jamal Hill responds to the haters, I'd be rich. Anyway, Sean had one of the best title performances. Yeah, that he peaked in that fight. It was a good performance. I see a lot of people talking shit in Anthony Smith's comments. He doesn't even say any pay. He doesn't even pay any attention. Exactly. He just ignores them because he doesn't care. Yeah, he's butthurt. And you know what? Yeah, styles make fights. Sean is a harder fight for Izzy than Dricus. Dricus' style kind of plays into Izzy's game, where Sean's doesn't. But then Dricus, even if you thought he robbed Sean, he's a harder fight for Strickland and Israel Adesanya because Sean struggles with guys who got physicality, have the threat of power, and have the threat of being able to mix it up and grapple. Um, But anyway, I'm going to sign off this live now, but it's been fun talking to y'all. And I'll be back live soon. Thank you all for joining. I'm gonna go get something to eat now, and peace.